Tatsumi was just a dumb but ambitious boy from the countryside who dreamed of making it big in the imperial capital. His goal was to save the nation one day through his own skills and sacrifice. This journey began when Tatsumi left his poor village, bidding farewell to his childhood friends, hoping to earn money in the capital to help his people. On the way, Tatsumi encountered a first-class danger beast known as the Earth Dragon. The creature was attacking the soldiers. Without hesitation, Tatsumi jumped in like a hero, slashing off one of the dragon's arms. He then leaped high into the air and struck it down, cutting the beast apart with his sword as he descended. The soldiers praised his skill and thanked him for the help. After hearing his story, they warned him about the corruption running deep within the capital before going their own way. When Tatsumi finally reached the capital, he went straight to the military barracks to apply for a commanding position. The recruiter laughed at him and offered only a grunt's role, but Tatsumi refused and was immediately thrown out. Just then, a confident and beautiful blonde woman approached him, promising she could help him get a government job if he bought her a drink. Tatsumi accepted, and they went to a bar together. After a few drinks, the woman told him she knew an official who could secure him a high position if she paid him off. Overjoyed, Tatsumi handed over all the money he had earned from slaying the danger beast. The woman told him to wait, promising he would learn a lot from this experience. She walked away with his money, leaving Tatsumi to sit in the bar all day like a fool. By nightfall, the bar owner told him the truth. He had been scammed. Filled with anger, Tatsumi cursed the blonde woman and stormed out. But now broke and homeless, he decided to spend the night on the streets. He is discovered by a noble's daughter named Arya. Without hesitation, Arya stops her carriage and invites the weary traveler to her mansion. Tatsumi gratefully accepts her offer and follows Arya home. To his pleasant surprise, Arya's parents warmly welcome the unexpected guest. After expressing his gratitude for their hospitality, Arya's father inquires about Tatsumi's purpose in the capital. Tatsumi then shares his story. He had left his countryside home with two close friends, Sayo and Ieyasu, on a journey to the capital. Just before their departure, the village elder had given Tatsumi a mysterious artifact for protection and bid them farewell. However, along the way, the trio was attacked, and Tatsumi has been unable to locate Sayo and Ieyasu since. Moved by Tatsumi's plight, Arya's father promises to organize a search party to find Tatsumi's missing companions. Filled with renewed hope, Tatsumi retires for the night, content in his newfound refuge. The following day, Tatsumi accompanies Arya on a shopping excursion, accompanied by her guards. As they wait for Arya to complete her purchases, one of the guards discreetly informs Tatsumi about the unsettling state of the imperial palace. The guard reveals that the reigning emperor is merely a child figurehead, answering only to the nation's prime minister. Before Tatsumi can respond, the guard quickly covers his mouth and whispers about the Night Raiders, a group of assassins dedicated to toppling the corrupt leaders throughout the imperial city. Tatsumi listens intently, then returns his focus to assisting Arya with her belongings. That night, chaos erupts as the Night Raiders launch an attack on Arya's mansion. Around midnight, Tatsumi awakens to the sound of a violent slash and rushes into the corridor. Peering out the windows, he realizes the mansion is under siege by the Night Raiders. Confused and unsure of what to do, he watches as the guards rush out to confront the attackers, only to see them swiftly overpowered. Witnessing the guards fall one by one, Tatsumi resolves to protect Arya. He finds an exit and follows a recent trail, discovering Arya and her entourage fleeing toward a shed in the back. Just then, one of the raiders appears and swiftly dispatches Arya's entourage. As the raider prepares to kill Arya, Tatsumi intervenes, blocking her path. The raider, later revealed to be Akame, demands that he step aside so she can complete her mission. However, Tatsumi is determined to save Arya. At that moment, Leone, the blonde girl who had deceived Tatsumi earlier, arrives as a member of the assassin group. By this time, Akame is ready to attack Tatsumi. She strikes at his chest, only to discover that the artifact given to him by the elder has protected him. She attempts a second slash, but Leone intervenes, preventing her from killing Tatsumi. When the commotion finally subsides, Leone takes it upon herself to reveal the true nature of Tatsumi's benefactors. She breaks down the door of the shed, exposing a gruesome scene filled with dismembered bodies. Among the victims, Tatsumi spots his friend Sayo, lifeless and covered in blood, hanging from the ceiling. In the darkness, his other friend, Ieyasu, recognizes Tatsumi's voice and speaks to him from his prison cell. Arya, in a panic, tries to flee, but Leone drags her back to confront her actions. Initially, Arya feigns ignorance about the shed, but she is soon compelled to confess. It becomes clear that her jealousy of the commoners who passed through the imperial city fueled her actions. In a moment of rage and sorrow, Tatsumi turns and kills Arya to avenge his fallen friends. The other assassins watch in surprise at his resolve. Just then, Ieyasu is freed from his cage, taking his final breaths. In his last moments, he urges Tatsumi to promise a better life for himself and the others in the capital. As the assassins prepare to leave, Leone picks up Tatsumi and drags him along to their hideout. Despite protests from the other members, Tatsumi is ultimately accepted into the Night Raiders. The next day, Tatsumi finds a quiet spot in the grassy plains of the forest to bury his two friends. As he pays his respects, Leone appears and asks if he has finally decided to join the Night Raiders. Tatsumi jumps back, fearing she might mishandle him again. However, now that he is one of them, Leone affectionately pets his head and leads him back to introduce him to the other assassins. Upon returning to the mansion, Leone introduces Tatsumi to Shiel, a gentle yet deadly assassin who serves as an aide to Mine. Mine, known for her sassy personality, enjoys teasing everyone around her. After getting acquainted with them, Leone takes Tatsumi to meet Bulat, also known as the armor guy. Bulat is big and strong but has a penchant for boys, creating an awkward atmosphere between him and Tatsumi before they move on to the next member. Next, Leone leads Tatsumi to Lub, the group's pervy member. They find Lub leering at the pool, hoping to catch a glimpse of bathing girls. Leone scolds him before moving on to the most dangerous member, Akame. They discover Akame sitting by a large fire, enjoying some roasted fish. Tatsumi is taken aback by the size of the fish she's eating. As they discuss their challenges, the boss of the Night Raiders returns from a trip, scolding Leone for her earlier behavior and making her beg for forgiveness. Afterward, he inquires about the new recruit. Leone explains that Tatsumi is someone they are looking to train. The boss calls for an emergency meeting to discuss recent developments. Before delving into details, he asks Tatsumi why he wants to join their ranks. Tatsumi mentions a few concerns that conflict with their mission and vision. However, the boss skillfully persuades him to join the Night Raid group. By the end of the meeting, Tatsumi feels a renewed sense of purpose. Before allowing Tatsumi to get too excited, the boss warns him about the risks of joining. If any member is caught during a mission and executed, there is nothing they can do to save that person from immediate death. However, if they succeed, they could restore the nation to its former glory. Tatsumi nods in agreement with the boss's words, and finally expresses his commitment to joining their ranks, provided his village would be compensated for all the work and trouble. Now the only task left is to train their newest member, Tatsumi. His first training partner is Akame, who handles the cooking duties in the house. The very next day, Tatsumi joins Akame in the kitchen to prepare a meal for the entire family. Once they finish cooking, Mine playfully teases Tatsumi before heading out. Next, Akame takes him fishing at a nearby pond. Upon arrival, she removes her clothing and dives into the water, catching fish by hand. That night, Tatsumi manages to catch 2 river tuna and cooks a delicious lunch for the group. During lunch, the boss presents a new mission to the team. He reveals that an unjust oil merchant named Gamal is working with an ogre, one of the strongest soldiers around. Together, they frame innocent people to cover their crimes and execute them publicly. This situation cannot continue. Recently, the ogre killed an innocent man, leaving his wife devastated and desperate enough to sell her body for money. With that money, she hired the Night Raiders to eliminate the 2 men responsible for her husband's death. Since Akame, Bulat, Mine, and Shiel are already wanted, Tatsumi will accompany them on this mission. Grateful for the opportunity, Tatsumi promises to deliver justice to the ogre and his accomplice. The boss acknowledges his thanks and allows him to prepare for his first mission. Before they leave, Akame warns Tatsumi never to get too cocky before a mission, as it could cost him his life. On their way to the capital, Leone shares some background about Akame. She explains that when Akame was younger, she and a group of friends were captured and trained as assassins focused on survival. During one of her missions, she met their boss and was recruited into the Night Raiders. With this insight, Tatsumi begins to understand Akame's behavior toward him. The duo splits up, with Leone and Akame taking out the oil merchant, while Tatsumi isolates the army commander, Ogre. Initially, Ogre appears to be a helpless man looking for a place in the military. However, when he turns his back, Tatsumi seizes the opportunity to strike, landing a blow. To his shock, Ogre suddenly wakes up and hits him on the head, igniting the real fight. Tatsumi struggles for his life in the first half of the battle, while Ogre taunts him by insulting the souls of those he has killed, infuriating Tatsumi even more. Tatsumi leaps high into the air and defeats Ogre once and for all. Returning home with pride, Tatsumi boasts about his victory to Akame. She playfully strips him of his shirt and smiles upon discovering he's unharmed. Tatsumi is taken aback by Akame's openness, prompting him to share his thoughts as well. Leone teases him as usual, leaving him blushing with embarrassment. A few days pass, and a new mission arrives. This time, the boss sends all his assassins after the enemy, suspected to be a rival group of assassins who managed to escape into the forest. As they pursue their target, Bulat dons his Imperial armor relic, Incursio, and shows it off to Tatsumi before continuing the search. Meanwhile, in another part of the forest, Akame encounters 3 assassins who underestimate her. With swift precision, she dispatches them using her cursed blade, and then heads back to rejoin her comrades. Nearby, Mine takes aim with her Imperial gun, picking off the fleeing assassins from a distance. Leone supports them with her formidable feral abilities, while Lub uses his barbed wires to take down the only female assassin in the group. After eliminating her, he takes one last look before walking away. Bulat, on the other hand, faces a swarm of attackers, but thanks to his incredible speed with the lance, he defeats them all in one swift move. After their successful mission, the assassins return to their hideout. That night, Tatsumi wakes up, reflecting on the incredible group he has joined. He thinks about Bulat's face, jolting himself back to reality to ensure his thoughts remain appropriate. Suddenly, memories of his deceased friends flood his mind. and he resolves never to forget the promises he made to them. The following morning, Tatsumi wakes up eager to find Mine. He encounters Shiel and another assassin, asking them for directions to Mine's room. Since Mine is known to be a late riser, Tatsumi decides to wake her himself. He finds her room and enters without knocking. To his shock, he discovers Mine dressing up. Embarrassed, she yells and fires her gun at him. Fortunately, Tatsumi dodges the shot and quickly apologizes for barging in without permission. The commotion rouses the other assassins from their sleep. Later, Mine gets dressed and heads to town with Tatsumi. As they stroll through the streets, Tatsumi begins to notice the grim reality around him, observing many unhappy people searching for a better life. He discusses his thoughts with Mine, and as they talk, they spot two bullies harassing a little girl in an alleyway. Mine quickly chases the bullies away and continues on her way with Tatsumi. While wandering the streets, they come across 4 wanted posters featuring some of their fellow assassins. Tatsumi frowns when he sees a picture of Bulat from before he joined them, reflecting on how much things have changed. The duo continues their journey to find some new clothes. Later in the afternoon, they settle down at an outdoor restaurant for a light lunch. During their meal, Tatsumi inadvertently disrespects Mine and talks back to her. In response, Mine gets up and gives him a beating for his insolence. Once she's finished, she becomes serious and reminds Tatsumi of his inexperience. Tatsumi admits to being inexperienced, but insists he won't give up anytime soon. At that moment, a crowd gathers in the public square to witness an execution. As they watch, both are haunted by flashbacks of their past experiences. Unbeknownst to them, the young emperor is about to sentence another man to death for defying his orders, despite multiple warnings from his subordinates. The prime minister, a rotund man with food in his mouth, appears and urges the emperor to carry out the execution without remorse. After the judgment is passed, the prime minister approaches the condemned man, promising to take care of his beautiful wife while he's gone. Eventually, Tatsumi and Mine return to their hideout, only to learn they have a new mission. This time, they are tasked with targeting Isakal, a distant relative of the prime minister. That night, Tatsumi, Mine, and a few others head to Isakal's mansion. They set up camp just outside the front entrance, and Mine readies her Imperial sniper gun, a weapon designed for taking out single targets. She takes aim and delivers a fatal shot to Isakal's head. Afterward, she prepares to lead Tatsumi into the forest. As they make their way back, they consider taking down Isakal's guards but decide against it, knowing they've trained in the capital's martial arts and prefer not to take unnecessary risks. Mine shares her backstory with Tatsumi, revealing her resolve to restore her country to its former glory and live off the money she'd earn in retirement. Upon arriving at their meeting point, they find no one waiting for them. Suddenly, one of Isakal's guards appears and challenges them to a fight. Mine fires at the guard, but he dodges gracefully and advances toward them. Tatsumi seizes the opportunity, holding the guard in place to give Mine a clear shot. She raises her gun and fires, creating a hole in the guard's chest and killing him instantly. After dispatching the guard, Mine turns to Tatsumi, who has singed hair from the gunfire. Soon the others arrive, and they all return to the hideout together. Deep in the city's dark places, Zank the assassin shows up with his imperial relic and heads out in the dead of night to hunt his victims. His first victims, a lady and her husband, plead with Zank to spare their lives. Zank laughs maniacally as he lifts the lady's head into the air, taunting her to speak if he frees her. She promises to do so, but with a sinister chuckle, Zank rips her head from her body, reveling in his cruelty. The following day, Tatsumi rises early to train with Bulat. Bulat guides him, holding his body to teach him the proper form for wielding a sword. After several hours of training, Akame calls them to breakfast. Once they finish their healthy meal, Tatsumi observes Akame and is surprised by how quickly she eats. Meanwhile, the boss is seen by the river, tending to a fatally injured soldier trapped under a rock. Before the soldier dies, he hands the boss a list of individuals who have pledged their support for the revolt. The boss accepts the note, allowing the soldier to finally rest in peace. During their nightly meeting, the boss informs the group about a serial killer who has been decapitating people each night. Upon hearing the description of the assassin, the team quickly deduces that it must be the former imperial executioner, Zank. Once a well-known executioner for a prominent prison in the capital, Zank used to behead people regularly until he developed a taste for killing and quit his job. Since acquiring his relic, he's been on a violent rampage. Tatsumi makes a funny face in response, earning teasing remarks from the others. Curiosity piqued, he asks about the origins of the imperial relics he has been hearing about. The boss begins to explain the history of the imperial relics. It all started about 1,000 years ago, when the creator of their current empire was deeply concerned about protecting his fledgling nation. Fearing the possibility of it falling into the hands of the wrong rulers, he sought a solution that would empower the people to fight against such threats in the future. After years of contemplation, he devised a plan to create armaments imbued with the wisdom of 1,000 blacksmiths and magicians. Once he issued the decree, the emperor gathered the finest blacksmiths from across the world to forge 48 imperial relics. After each relic was crafted, the emperor entrusted them to select retainers to safeguard their power. For a time, peace reigned across the land. However, 500 years ago, during a brutal civil war, half of the relics were stolen and scattered throughout the continent. The assassins managed to recover one relic for themselves, granting them power that could rival 1,000 men. After this history lesson, each assassin introduces their own relic. Akame's imperial relic is the cursed sword, Murasame, known for poisoning any surface it cuts. To this day, no antidote has been discovered for its lethal effects. Leon's relic is a belt called the Beast Ruler, which grants its wearer the strength and senses of a beast during combat. Mine wields the Spirit Artillery Pumpkin. Next is Bulat's relic, the Demonic Armor, Incursio. This armor provides absolute defense to its wearer. Jub possesses the Crosstail, a versatile wire that can detect traps and slice through its victims. Shiel's relic, known as the Absolute Bisector or Extase, grants its user the ability to cut through any known material. However, each time two relic users face off, one must die, meaning that if one of them encounters Zank, they must ensure victory or face death. Tatsumi feels a wave of fear at the implications of their discussion, but his colleagues quickly reassure him. He realizes just how formidable his teammates are and turns to the boss, asking about his own imperial relic. The boss smiles and tells Tatsumi not to worry. One day, he will find a relic that suits his fighting style. With the discussion concluded, the boss rises from his seat and begins outlining the details of their upcoming mission. Later that night, Akame and Tatsumi are stealthily navigating the city, searching for Zank. As they move through the shadows, they discuss the effects of the poison from Akame's blade. She expresses her frustrations about handling the cursed sword, noting that without an antidote, she must be extra cautious to avoid cutting herself. Unbeknownst to them, Zank is already aware of their presence, having used his imperial relic to locate them. He identifies Tatsumi as the weakest link and decides to abduct him first. After taking a quick break in an alleyway out of Akame's sight, Tatsumi sees an apparition of Sayo, his deceased friend, beckoning him to follow her to the top of a nearby tower. When Tatsumi reaches the tower, Zank reveals himself and begins to read Tatsumi's thoughts, shocking the young man. Realizing he must buy time for Akame to find him, Tatsumi steels himself for a confrontation. He deduces that Zank's imperial relic is a forehead protector that allows him to read minds and see people from a distance. Annoyed and determined, Tatsumi lunges at Zank, attacking with all his might. Unfortunately, his strength proves insufficient against the formidable Zank, who easily cuts him. Despite the pain, Tatsumi continues to fight, shouting for Akame to hear him. Zank, enjoying the torment, urges Tatsumi to beg for his life, believing this will buy him enough time for his friends to arrive. In a moment of desperation, Tatsumi powers up and manages to land a strike on Zank, but he is quickly hit from behind. Angered, Zank retaliates, but just as he is about to deal a finishing blow, Akame arrives in the nick of time. Upon hearing Tatsumi call her name, Zank decides to take her seriously. He uses his forehead protector to scan her for hidden weapons but finds nothing, preparing himself for an attack. Akame engages Zank in combat, but as the fight progresses, she realizes the extent of his power. She calms her mind, clearing it of all thoughts to prevent Zank from reading her. Akame attacks him blindly, but Zank uses her emotions against her, gaining the upper hand. During a tense standoff, Zank taunts Akame, asking if she still hears the voices of those she has killed. Akame, however, asserts that she does not. At that moment, Zank uses his power to project an apparition of Akame's old friend, attempting to freeze her in place. To his surprise, Akame quickly snaps out of the illusion and slashes him across the chest. Zank is taken aback, asking her why she was able to overcome the vision. Akame responds that if she were truly her friend, she would still kill her. In a final act of mercy, Akame grants Zank the death he has long sought, freeing him from the torment of the voices of those he has killed. In his last moments, Zank thanks Akame for liberating him from his inner demons. With the mission complete, Zank breathes his last. The next day, while Tatsumi pays his respects to his fallen friends, Akame visits him, urging him to refocus on his training. She emphasizes the importance of honing his skills, knowing that the challenges ahead will only grow more daunting. The following morning, Tatsumi experiences a strange dream. In it, Sayo and Ieyasu seem to have finally found peace, leaving Tatsumi in the hands of his new friends. When he wakes up, he finds his new master, Shiel, sleeping nearby. He watches the clumsy girl as she drops her glasses and fumbles around, trying to greet him. This makes Tatsumi curious about what her special ability might be. At breakfast, the others express their concerns about Shiel being paired with the troublesome Tatsumi. The boss attempts to lighten the mood with a joke, but only succeeds in grossing everyone out. The atmosphere shifts as they tease Jub, and the group continues with their day. For his first training session, Tatsumi is put through the challenge of swimming in heavy armor. After successfully passing the test, Shiel informs him that she struggles to concentrate on what training to give him, because she feels she has no job. When Tatsumi asks why, Shiel explains that her clumsiness has caused her to flunk every job she's tried to take on in the house. Curious, Tatsumi inquires why he didn't see her with the others at the end of their first mission. Shiel stammers and fumbles, unable to provide a clear explanation. Sensing her discomfort, Tatsumi encourages her to share her story. Shiel reveals that she has always been clumsy by nature, which led others to look down on her. Life became unbearable as she lost her sense of purpose. In her search for recognition, Shiel sometimes acted out of character to draw attention. One night, she met a woman who took an interest in her. They quickly bonded and became best friends, spending time together whenever they could. However, one fateful night, the woman's ex-boyfriend, high on drugs and alcohol, came looking for trouble. He harassed Shiel's friend, threatening to kill her. Without hesitation, Shiel killed the man, feeling a sense of purpose and happiness for ridding the world of a worthless scumbag. While her friend trembled in fear, the verdict claimed Shiel acted in self-defense. After her release, the man's friends sought revenge. Shiel remained composed and eliminated them one by one. It was during this time that she discovered her true purpose in life, to cleanse the city of the garbage that plagued it. Tatsumi listens intently, feeling worried and sympathetic for Shiel. However, she reassures him not to worry at all, emphasizing that she has found her path and is committed to fighting for a better future. That evening, everyone gathers around to watch Tatsumi as he prepares to put on the forehead protector Imperial Relic, eager to try reading Akame's mind without activating it. Leone, watching him intently, warns him not to rush and to wait until it's activated before attempting to use it. Once activated, Tatsumi eagerly tests the relic's power, attempting to see through the clothes of the girls around him. However, the relic soon rejects him, causing the others to quickly remove it from his forehead and send it to the lab for further research. As the atmosphere shifts, the boss presents Tatsumi with a book filled with details about all the Imperial relics ever created. Intrigued, Tatsumi flips through the pages and asks the boss which is the strongest relic. The boss replies that, in his opinion, the strongest relic is one that controls ice. However, he notes that the user is not in the capital. Instead, he is busy subjugating and conquering lands in the northern part of the continent. This user, known as Hiro Numaseka, is celebrated as a strong warrior with keen wits and intuition. In response to the looming threat, the Empire has initiated plans to invade the north before Numaseka can amass enough power. Tatsumi, feeling determined, assures the boss that they will find all the relics and use them to revive his fallen friends. However, Bulat interjects, reminding Tatsumi that there is no relic capable of bringing back the dead. If such a power existed, the emperor who created the relics would still be alive. This revelation hits Tatsumi hard, and he finds himself revisiting his friends' graves once more. As he stands there, tears streaming down his face, Shiel approaches and catches him in his moment of grief. She wraps her arms around him in a comforting hug and urges him to let it all out, to cry more so that his troubles can finally be released. Grateful for her support, Tatsumi thanks Shiel and allows himself to cry softly in her embrace, feeling the weight of his emotions begin to lift as he shares this vulnerable moment with her. Several thousand miles away in the north, Esdeath, the ruthless leader of the Empire's army, stands victorious over the hero who wielded the ice relic. In a display of humiliation, she forces him to lick her feet, stripping him of his dignity. After thoroughly disgracing the former hero of the North, she kills him without a second thought, her thirst for blood and power driving her to seek an enemy strong enough to satisfy her insatiable urge to kill. The following day, Leone takes Tatsumi to the slums where she grew up. As they navigate through the bustling streets of the capital's underbelly, everyone recognizes Leone, greeting her warmly, including some of the people she had scammed in her past. Their interactions reveal a mix of nostalgia and regret for Leone, who has come a long way since her days in the slums. Meanwhile, an emissary from the south arrives at the Emperor's court, delivering alarming news about Generals Nakakido and Hemi, who have defected to the Revolutionary Army. The courtroom erupts in despair at the news, but the young Emperor urges everyone to remain calm and patient, suggesting they wait for the defectors to make a mistake that they can exploit. The Prime Minister supports this strategy, but shifts the focus to a more immediate threat, the Night Raiders. He insists that Esdeath should return from the north, confident that with her proven strength, she will have no trouble eliminating the Night Raiders. Back in the slums, Tatsumi finds himself separated from Leone. As he searches the chaotic streets for her, he unexpectedly encounters Seryu, who wields the Imperial relic known as Hecaton Kyr. This living relic is notorious for only harming those deemed evil. Inquiring about his presence in such a desolate area, he explains that he has lost track of his group, and without hesitation, Seryu offers to help him. Taking Tatsumi's hand, Seryu urges him to describe his last known location. As they make their way back to the capital, Tatsumi asks about her Imperial relic. Seryu explains that she is the only person with whom Hecaton Kyr can truly bond, emphasizing the unique connection they share. As they rush back to her office, Seryu's thoughts drift to her former boss, who was killed by an unknown assailant. A fierce determination ignites within her as she vows to seek revenge on the person or group responsible for his death, her resolve strengthening with each step they take toward the capital. That night, Leone and Tatsumi make their way to the Red District of the capital, intent on taking down drug bosses who have been kidnapping women. Upon reaching their destination, Leone races past the guards, swiftly hiding herself and Tatsumi in the ceiling. She skillfully locates the right room and opens a hatch, allowing Tatsumi to peek down and observe the scene below. To his horror, he discovers hundreds of women crammed into a room filled with purple fumes, their conditions dire. As he watches, two men enter the room, discussing their plans to take down one of the women and replace her with the next shipment. Seeing the maltreatment of the women ignites a fire within Leone and Tatsumi. They resolve to put an end to the injustice that very night. With a burst of energy, they crash into the room, confronting the old men and their terrible sons. In a swift and brutal display of power, they take down the scum in the blink of an eye. The men plead for their lives, but Leone coldly refuses their pleas, determined to cleanse the city of their filth. After successfully liberating the women, Leone and Tatsumi head back home through the dark streets. As they walk, Tatsumi asks Leone what will happen to the girls who were kidnapped. Leone reassures him that they will be taken to a doctor in the countryside for proper care. Seizing the moment, Tatsumi playfully teases Leone, but his lightheartedness backfires when she calls him a cutie and unexpectedly licks his ear, leaving him flustered. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, Mine and Shiel are rushing home after completing their own mission. As they navigate the streets, they encounter Seryu, who blocks their path. With a fierce expression, she pulls out a newspaper and identifies one of them as a member of the Night Raiders, a group she despises. Seryu's eyes burn with murderous intent as she promises to make their deaths quick and seamless. Despite Mine and Shiel's attempts to ease her pain and reason with her, Seryu remains resolute, refusing to back down. In a sudden move, Mine makes the first attack, firing her artillery at Seryu. However, Seryu's imperial relic, Hecaton Cheer, activates to block the attack. In response, Shiel quickly raises her blade relic, Ekstase, to block the incoming strikes. Mine takes aim and shoots a hole into the side of the massive dog, but to her astonishment, the wound heals almost instantly. Realizing the formidable strength of Hecaton Kier, Mine deduces that the dog possesses a core that enables it to regenerate its body parts at will. Shield commands Hecaton Kier to regenerate its arms and attack the two enemies. The dog obeys, creating new limbs and lunging forward for another assault. Meanwhile, Seryu blows her whistle, summoning reinforcements while she holds off Mine and Shiel. Taking advantage of the chaos, Shiel closes the distance to Seryu, activating her hidden ability, Ekstase. Her sword shines with a brilliant light as she attacks at incredible speeds. She chases Seryu into the nearby forest, managing to cut both of her arms. However, Seryu cunningly tricks Shiel into believing she is unarmed. When Shiel lowers her guard, Seryu materializes guns from her severed arms and fires at her. Shiel reacts quickly, blocking the shots and severing the guns from Seryu's arms. In a desperate move, Seryu commands her dog, Koro, to grow larger and transform into a wolf, enhancing its strength. The monstrous dog obeys and lunges at Mine, aiming to crush her. But just before Koro can execute the attack, Shiel intervenes, cutting off the dog's hand and freeing Mine from its grasp. However, in a moment of distraction, Shiel is caught off guard and gets shot by Seryu's mouth gun. Koro, now with an additional hand, bites down on Shiel, tearing her in two. Mine, filled with rage and determination, charges towards Seryu, intent on ending her life. But just as she is about to reach her, Seryu's reinforcements arrive, blocking her path. In a final act of sacrifice, Shiel activates Ekstase one last time, releasing a blinding light that allows Mine to escape the guards. Mine glances back at Shiel, a mix of sorrow and gratitude in her eyes. Mine vows never to forget Shiel and the sacrifices she made. In her final moments, Shiel's life flashes before her eyes. She reflects on the love and care she received from the Night Raiders, wishing she could be with them one last time before her life ends. Unfortunately, that wish remains unfulfilled as she lies there, missing the lower half of her body. With a final breath, Shiel succumbs to her injuries, releasing her imperial relic for the next person to wield. As Shiel's light fades, Seryu lets out a maniacal laugh, declaring herself the ambassador of justice, reveling in her victory over the Night Raiders and the chaos she has unleashed. When she gets back to the hideout, Mine reveals the sad news to the lot and brings sadness to the lot. Tatsumi gets emotional at one point and urges Mine to go after Shiel's killer that instant. However, the boss can't sanction such an operation out of emotion. That night, while the rain falls, makes a promise to get even with Seryu in the future. Tatsumi, on the other hand, returns to his friend's grave and recalls the moments he had with Shiel the other night when he cried in her arms. He clenches his fists and gets more determined to end the Prime Minister once and for all. By dawn, Esdeath returns to the Imperial capital as the proud owner and user of the Ice Controller Imperial Relic. Moments after arriving at the capital, Esdeath makes her grand entrance before the young Emperor. Both the Emperor and the Prime Minister warmly welcome her, expressing their gratitude for her impressive efforts in the Northern Ice battle. To commemorate her skill, they present her with a reward of 10,000 gold pieces. Esdeath graciously accepts the Emperor's generous offer, but quickly makes it clear that she desires more than just gold for her deeds. When asked what she truly wants, Esdeath surprises both rulers by declaring that she wishes to fall in love. The Emperor and Prime Minister exchange puzzled glances, uncertain why someone like Esdeath, a powerful warrior, would seek love at this point in her life. The Prime Minister contemplates her request, noting that since she has no intentions of usurping the throne, it might be in their best interest to grant her wishes. The Emperor promises to look into her request, and Esdeath thanks both men for their understanding. Before departing, she hands them a meticulously crafted list of qualities she seeks in her ideal man. He must be strong, easily controllable, and above all, possess a sweet, innocent smile. The absurdity of her request lingers in the air, as she seems to be searching for a mix of a gangsta pastor, all in one body. Meanwhile, The scene shifts to Tatsumi, who is doing the dishes while Akame helps Mine eat her food. As he scrubs the plates, his thoughts drift to Sheely's killer, Seryu. Regret washes over him, as he wishes he had taken the opportunity to kill her when he had the chance. Back in the royal palace, Esdeath and the Prime Minister discuss the qualities she desires in a partner. While some of her criteria may seem outrageous, given how few men possess such traits, the Prime Minister assures her that he will find her ideal man in no time. After concluding her meeting with the Prime Minister, Esdeath meets with 3 members of her new secret squad. These relic users pledge their loyalty to her, vowing to hunt down her enemies, the Night Raiders. Esdeath entrusts them with this critical mission, confident in their abilities, and dismisses them with a sense of purpose. Late at night, Tatsumi quietly makes his way down to the kitchen. As he enters, he finds Akame standing there, holding a plate of Shield's favorite midnight snack. He commends her for maintaining her composure despite the recent loss of her beloved colleague. However, Akame's expression shifts as she clenches her fist tightly, causing the plate to shatter in her hands. She grips Tatsumi's shirt, tears streaming down her face as she confesses that she has only been holding it together for the sake of their mission. Whenever she is alone, the weight of her grief over Shield's death overwhelms her. Tatsumi feels a wave of disappointment wash over him for underestimating Akame's emotional struggle. In a moment of frustration, he punches himself in the face, trying to shake off the misery that threatens to engulf him. Concerned, Akame checks to see if he's alright, and he reassures her that he is. After regaining his composure, Tatsumi promises Akame that he will avenge Shield's death in due time. Unbeknownst to them, Leon has been eavesdropping from the entrance. The following morning, Tatsumi throws himself into training, with Akame as his teacher. He pushes through the pain, taking hits, but asking for another session, driven by his desire to grow stronger. Just then, Bulat enters the training area, observing Tatsumi's relentless spirit. He admires Tatsumi's determination, but warns him to remain vigilant and aware of his surroundings. Recognizing the potential in Tatsumi, Bulat decides to step in and train him. He picks up his pole and challenges Tatsumi to a serious sparring session. The intensity of the training escalates as Bulat teaches Tatsumi not just to fight, but to think strategically and adapt to his opponent's movements. With each strike and maneuver, Tatsumi learns valuable lessons about resilience, focus, and the importance of camaraderie. Far away from the capital, in a desolate northern village, a politician and his daughter ride in their carriage, traversing the rough terrain. The politician expresses his disdain for the Prime Minister and his corrupt practices, vowing to reach the capital as soon as possible to confront him about his crimes. His daughter supports his resolve, but a sense of foreboding hangs in the air. Just a few meters ahead of their carriage, 3 assassins sent by Esdeath appear, swiftly eliminating the guards, the daughter, and the politician himself in a brutal ambush. Once they have completed their grim task, the assassins spread flyers throughout the village, framing the Night Raiders for the murders, sowing further discord and confusion. Back in the capital, the boss of the Night Raiders arranges an urgent meeting with his team. He assigns Leon the task of spying on Esdeath, warning her to exercise extreme caution when dealing with the legendary warrior. However, Leon's excitement for the challenge shines through, as she expresses her eagerness to confront Esdeath. The boss then reveals the flyers and explains the dire situation to the group. Though the people are quick to believe the propaganda, the immediate concern is the indiscriminate targeting of opposing politicians, who are the last remnants of hope for the capital. To prevent further assassinations, the boss has identified 2 politicians as the next likely targets. He organizes the Night Raiders into 2 teams, Akame and Lub, and Tatsumi and Bulat, instructing them to guard the politicians who are currently hiding on the outskirts of the city. On the day of the mission, Bulat and Tatsumi discover that the first politician is aboard a large cruise ship. Meanwhile, Akame and Lub conceal themselves in the trees, keeping watch over a small village. Tatsumi and Bulat disguise themselves as nobles boarding the ship. To maintain their cover, Bulat activates his armor, Incursio, rendering himself invisible. As they blend in with the other passengers, Bulat shares a pivotal moment from his past. He recounts his time fighting alongside General Liver, who was wrongfully accused, ignored, and imprisoned. Bulat reveals that he was captured alongside Liver but managed to escape with his armor before anything went awry. Bulat heads deeper into the ship to gather more information, leaving Tatsumi to maintain their cover. Unbeknownst to them, the sound of a flute playing in the distance begins to resonate throughout the ship. While the other passengers succumb to its lethargic effects, Tatsumi manages to stay awake and alert. As he makes his way to the deck, one of the assassins catches up with him, wielding an imperial relic known as the Twofold Cleaver, Belvark. Despite the danger, Tatsumi refuses to back down, but Bulat arrives just in time to prevent him from making a reckless decision. With Tatsumi secured, Bulat activates his imperial relic, Incursio, donning the armor that grants him enhanced abilities. The 3 assassins launch a coordinated attack, but Bulat skillfully counters their moves, using his lance to slice through the Twofold Cleaver user and injure the remaining assassins. In the heat of battle, as Bulat revels in his victory over the assassins, he suddenly realizes that one of them is none other than General Liver, the very man he thought lost to the system. The revelation sends shockwaves through Bulat, intertwining their fates once more as the stakes of their confrontation rise dramatically. The tension mounts as the Night Raiders prepare to face the assassins, unaware of the deeper connections and conflicts that lie ahead. Bulat, facing off against General Liver, demands a reasonable explanation for his betrayal. Liver coldly informs him that he was saved from certain death by General Esdeath, his loyalty now firmly aligned with her cause. Bulat realizes that there is no room for negotiation. Liver has chosen his path. With resolve, he draws his lance, vowing to complete the mission even if it costs him his life. Liver, in turn, removes his glove to reveal his imperial relic, a ring called Black Marlin, forged from the organ of a dragon. This powerful relic allows him to bend and control water at will, a significant advantage given their current location on a ship surrounded by water. Unfazed by Liver's strength, Bulat steels himself for the impending battle. At that moment, the flute guy, who had been incapacitated by the effects of the music, regains consciousness and attempts to strike Bulat while he's occupied. However, Tatsumi arrives just in time, thwarting the flute guy's attack. The two engage in a fierce exchange, but the flute guy, despite his wound, manages to evade Tatsumi's strikes and challenges him instead. As the battle rages on, Liver prepares his next move. He summons the Ravine Serpent, a massive water creature, directing it toward Bulat. While Tatsumi continues to fend off the flute guy, Bulat slices through the serpent with precision, momentarily floating in the air as he does so. But Liver seizes the opportunity, attacking Bulat mid-air and breaking the face of his helmet. Despite the blow, Bulat remains undeterred, showcasing his resilience. Determined to showcase his true power, Liver summons a real water dragon this time, commanding it to strike Bulat. Bulat lets out a fierce scream, but manages to suspend himself in the air. As he descends toward Liver, the flute guy unexpectedly intervenes. Bulat halts his attack, landing safely on the deck. He soon finds Tatsumi writhing in pain, apologizing for his weakness. Bulat, concerned for his comrade, removes his Incursio armor to rest for a moment. Liver, reveling in what he perceives as victory, gloats about his superiority. However, Bulat counters, reminding him of the blood oozing from his ears, a clear sign that the techniques he has been using against Bulat have taken a toll on his own body. In a last-ditch effort, Liver tries to persuade Bulat to join Esdeath's army, offering him a chance at power and glory. But Bulat, with unwavering conviction, rejects the offer, stating he has no interest in joining the scum of the earth. The tension between them thickens as both warriors prepare for the next phase of their confrontation, each driven by their own ideals and sense of justice. The battle is far from over, and the stakes continue to rise as they clash in a fight that will determine the fate of their beliefs and loyalties. Liver, sensing Bulat's unwavering resolve, begins to extol the benefits of joining Esdeath's powerful army. He speaks of the immense power and influence it would grant him, painting a picture of glory and strength, fierce and unrelenting, as the two warriors clash in a fight to the death. Bulat manages to slice Liver, pushing him to the ground, but as Liver nears defeat, he activates his hidden ability. He transforms his blood into tiny razor-sharp pincers that launch at Bulat with incredible speed. Though Bulat skillfully blocks most of the attacks, a few pincers pierce his body, inflicting painful wounds. As the fight reaches its climax, Liver succumbs to his injuries, collapsing to the ground. In his final moments, he reveals to Bulat the true reason behind his betrayal. Esdeath had visited him in prison, promising him happiness and purpose in exchange for his loyalty. Liver, easily swayed by her words, had been enthralled by the prospect of belonging to something greater, and had joined her army. As Liver's life slips away, he discloses the secret behind his last ability. The strength-boosting substance he injected was also a poison that had contaminated his blood. With Bulat now injured by the blood pincers, he realizes that he too is at risk of dying from the same fate. In a moment of clarity, just before his death, Bulat points out their final enemy, the flute guy, who approaches them with an air of confidence. The flute guy uses his trump card, buffing up his body to appear intimidating, ready to take on Tatsumi. Despite being unarmed and without an imperial weapon, Tatsumi stands firm, determined to face the threat head-on. Seeing Tatsumi's resolve, Bulat passes him the key to the Incursio armor, urging him to use it in the fight. However, the flute guy continues to taunt Tatsumi, hoping to undermine his confidence and prevent him from activating the armor. Frustrated by Tatsumi's hesitation, Bulat rises with what little strength he has left and delivers a punch to Tatsumi, admonishing him for allowing an enemy to dictate his actions. With Bulat's encouragement ringing in his ears, Tatsumi steels himself for the battle ahead. He grasps the key to the Incursio armor tightly and activates it just as the flute guy approaches for an attack. As Tatsumi shouts the word Incursio, the true form of the armor reveals itself, a powerful dragon tyrant, the real danger beast that had been transformed into the armor. The dragon merges seamlessly with Tatsumi's body, enhancing his strength and agility. Suddenly, he feels a surge of power coursing through him, transforming him into a formidable warrior. The two engage in a fierce struggle, their fists colliding as they grapple for dominance. But Tatsumi channels the armor's power, The impact is lethal, and the flute guy falls lifeless to the ground. As Tatsumi stands over the defeated enemy, he feels a mix of triumph and sorrow. Bulat, witnessing his young student's triumph, manages a final smile, filled with pride before he closes his eyes for the last time. The weight of loss crashes down on Tatsumi as he kneels beside Bulat's lifeless body, tears streaming down his face. The pain of losing his second teammate is overwhelming, and he mourns the sacrifice Bulat made for him and their cause. Later that evening, the scene shifts to a darkened area littered with dead bodies. Akame's sister, Kurome, is seen sitting atop the gruesome pile, casually eating snacks as if it were a mundane task. One of her subordinates approaches her. He delivers the news that she has been summoned to the capital by General Esdeath. The implications of this summons hang heavily in the air, hinting at the unfolding chaos and the intertwining fates of the characters as the story continues to unfold. The following day, Mine finds solace in the tranquil waters of a river near the hideout, taking a much-needed bath. As the cool water washes over her, she feels her strength returning, fueling her resolve to hunt down the killer of her friend, Shiel. After enjoying the refreshing bath, she dresses quickly and races back to the mansion, eager to resume her missions. Upon her return, Mine heads straight to the training ground, seeking someone to train with. To her surprise, she finds Lub and Tatsumi engaged in a grueling set of push-ups, with the ladies perched on their backs for added weight. Mine is taken aback, particularly by Lub's participation in such exercise, but she commends them for finally taking their health seriously. Leon, ever the jokester, tries to poke fun at Lub, noting that he's only doing half as many push-ups as Tatsumi. Akame chimes in with a humorous quip about Leone being too heavy, which earns her a playful smack on the head. Just then, their boss arrives, revealing herself to be a woman dressed in men's clothing. As a war general, she explains that she believes people would take her more seriously if they perceived her as a man. After gathering the relics from the 3 fallen assassins, she plans to travel south to recruit new members for the Night Raiders from the Revolution. Tatsumi, still feeling the weight of the cleavers, complains about their heaviness, but the boss reassures him that it's no match for her strength. Before departing, the boss entrusts Akame with the responsibility of leading the team in her absence, urging her to do a good job. She also takes a moment to commend Tatsumi for holding his ground against the powerful assassins on the ship. Despite the loss of Bulat, they manage to eliminate 3 formidable foes, a small victory amidst their grief. As she prepares to leave, the boss shares Bulat's final thoughts about Tatsumi, expressing her belief in his potential and the legacy he must carry forward. With a final nod of encouragement, she heads out to seek more allies for the Night Raiders, leaving the team with a renewed sense of purpose and determination to honor their fallen comrades, ready to face whatever challenges lie ahead. Elsewhere, Esdeath stands solemnly at the graves of her 3 former assassins, saying her final goodbyes. With a heavy heart, she leaves their resting place behind, resolute in her mission to seek out more powerful allies for her secret anti-Night Raiders force. Just outside the capital's gates, a country hick named Wave arrives, dressed in surprisingly cool clothes that catch the eyes of passers-by. With a bag full of freshly caught fish slung over his shoulder, he confidently wades through the bustling settlement, turning heads as he makes his way toward the palace. As he enters, he is greeted by the sight of a bizarre figure wearing a mask, who seems to be fixated on him. Wave takes a seat, feeling increasingly uncomfortable under the masked stranger's intense gaze. He fidgets awkwardly, trying to ignore the strange vibe. Moments later, Kurome strolls in, snacking as usual, and takes her place at the table. Wave attempts to strike up a conversation with her, but she shoos him away, assuming he's after her snacks. Dejected, Wave settles back into his seat, waiting for the others to arrive. Seryu soon bursts into the room. Following her is another flamboyant character who introduces himself as stylish. The atmosphere is a mix of eccentricity and awkwardness, and when the only seemingly normal person, Run, arrives, Wave can't help but hold his hands together like an infatuated little girl. Once everyone is present, the masked figure introduces himself as Bowles and begins preparing tea for the group. He describes himself as shy and not one to engage with others often. However, he reveals that he hails from the notorious Incineration Squad, a group infamous for their ruthless methods of burning people and things to ashes. The room falls silent as everyone contemplates their desires and ambitions, each lost in their thoughts. Just then, their master, Esdeath, makes her dramatic entrance, wearing a mask and launching an unexpected attack on everyone in the room. However, amidst the chaos, only Kurome manages to break Esdeath's mask, revealing her true identity. Realizing they were attacking their master, immediately stops and pays their respects to Esdeath. With her presence now known, Esdeath prepares to address her new recruits, ready to instill her vision for the anti-Night Raiders force and set them on a path of destruction against their enemies. Following the meeting, Esdeath treats her new comrades to a lavish fish dinner, where Bowles and Wave take on the cooking duties. As they enjoy the meal, Esdeath shares her next objective, to find love. The unexpected revelation catches everyone off guard, especially Seryu, who mentions Shiel's relic. However, since no one strong enough to wield it is available at the moment, the relic remains idle in the archives. Intrigued by the prospect, Esdeath suggests hosting a tournament to find someone worthy of wielding such a powerful weapon. Excitement buzzes in the air as she begins to strategize and find participants for the upcoming event. The next day, Tatsumi makes his way to the capital's bookstore, entering a secret hideout concealed behind one of the archives. Inside, he finds Leone, who is soon joined by Lub. They gather to discuss their new enemy, Esdeath. Reveals that Esdeath was once close to their former boss, General Najenda. She recounts a harrowing mission where Esdeath and Najenda, along with other relic holders, were sent to eliminate a rebel tribe in the mountains. Initially, the Empire dispatched 120,000 soldiers to combat the 10,000-strong rebel tribe. However, the terrible terrain and harsh weather conditions quickly decimated their numbers. Najenda and Esdeath were called in to provide support. When they arrived at a large body of water, Esdeath demonstrated her power by freezing the entire expanse. In a matter of days, she and her band of relic holders defeated most of the tribe members. To add insult to injury, Esdeath allowed some of the tribe to survive, intending for them to breed more rebels for her to confront in the future. Leone breathes a sigh of relief, grateful that she trusted her instincts and chose not to attack Esdeath back then. At that moment, the Prime Minister and the young Emperor review the list of qualities Esdeath desires in a man. Although they find the list ridiculous, they ensure it is documented to aid in their search for the perfect candidate. A few days later, Esdeath organizes a tournament to select a man suitable for her. As the matches unfold, several men fight fiercely, eliminating one another in a display of strength. When Tatsumi's turn arrives, he faces off against a muscular bully with a goat-like head. Esdeath watches with skepticism, assuming Tatsumi is just another weak contender who will be easily crushed. However, Tatsumi surprises everyone with his impressive skills and swordsmanship, ultimately defeating the bully. The unexpected victory catches Esdeath's attention, and she finds herself intrigued by Tatsumi. Could he be the man she has been searching for? As Tatsumi stands victorious, he flashes an innocent smile that captivates Esdeath completely. She rises from her seat and approaches the arena. Without hesitation, she attaches a collar around Tatsumi's neck, declaring him hers, and begins to drag him toward her quarters. Tatsumi struggles, but Esdeath swiftly knocks him out, taking him away. News of Tatsumi's abduction spreads quickly among the Night Raid members. In a state of alarm, they convene to devise a plan to rescue him from Esdeath's clutches. The stakes are high, and the urgency of their mission drives them to strategize and prepare for the confrontation ahead. As they rally together, determination and camaraderie strengthen their resolve to save their comrade from the powerful general who threatens to claim him for her own. By nightfall, Esdeath prepares Tatsumi for his first mission with the Jaeger squad. She intends to let him witness the pros in action and teach him the ropes of completing a mission. As they arrive at the mission site, Esdeath and Tatsumi stay behind to observe while Seryu and the others head toward their objective. Tatsumi watches Esdeath closely, noting the soft look on her face, and contemplates the possibility of escaping her clutches. However, before he can act, Esdeath gently takes his hands, blushing as she gazes into his eyes. Meanwhile, Seryu and the rest of the Jaeger squad unleash the full power of their Imperial relics against the enemy. They slash, cut, rip open, and dismember every living thing in their path with ruthless efficiency. The air is filled with the sounds of battle as they demonstrate their prowess, showcasing the terrifying strength of their team. Eventually, they set fire to the entire fortress, leaving nothing but destruction in their wake. Tatsumi watches in shock as the brutal efficiency of the Jaeger squad sinks in. He begins to realize just how destructive and formidable this team can be. After the mission, Esdeath calls Tatsumi's attention, promising to train him personally. She opens up about the strange feelings she has been experiencing and expresses her hope that they can make their relationship work. Tatsumi, taken aback by her innocent smile, decides to pursue a reckless idea. He resolves to ask someone like Esdeath to join the Night Raiders. Later that night, Esdeath returns to her quarters with Tatsumi. Tatsumi sits on her bed, his mind swirling with conflicting thoughts. Eventually, he shakes off his doubts and prepares to ask Esdeath the big question. However, before Tatsumi can voice his question, she pins him to the bed, asserting her dominance. In the heat of the moment, Tatsumi manages to stop her, finally asking the foolish question he had in mind. Upon hearing Tatsumi's unreasonable request to join the Night Raiders, Esdeath reacts with a sharp slap. She reassures him that she will always be there for him, and that he shouldn't worry about himself or his family, as they would be under her protection. Tatsumi, desperate to sway Esdeath, tries to manipulate her feelings for him. However, Esdeath firmly stands her ground, refusing to cave into his request. As a strong woman, she struggles with her emotions, but ultimately decides against ending Tatsumi's life in that moment. Instead, she politely asks him to stop discussing rebellion and to join her in bed for a peaceful night's rest. Determined to escape, Tatsumi makes a break for the corridor of the palace, but Esdeath swiftly reminds him not to try anything foolish, warning him that it could lead to his demise. Reluctantly, Tatsumi returns to bed. Esdeath reflects on her earlier meeting with her Jaeger team subordinates. Earlier that day, she had chained Tatsumi to a chair and presented him to her squad, introducing him as her lover. With a playful yet serious tone, she asked her team for their thoughts on how to make Tatsumi fall in love with her. The shy member, Bowles, admitted that he had been married for 6 years. The revelation shocked everyone, but Bowles offered his advice, encouraging Esdeath to remain persistent in her pursuit of Tatsumi. With a smile, Esdeath took his words to heart and settled in for the night. The next morning, Tatsumi stumbles into the dining hall, his eyes baggy and sleep-deprived. He spots Wave and Kurome already seated and joins them for breakfast. As he chats with them, he notices something peculiar about Kurome. She gives off an Akame vibe. Curiosity piqued, he asks her if she knows Akame. Kurome reveals that she is related to Akame and expresses her eagerness to cut her up herself, a statement that sends a chill down Tatsumi's spine. Just then, Esdeath enters the dining hall. She invites Tatsumi to join her on a hunt at Fake Mountain, where she plans to take down a danger-level beast to impress him with her strength. Unbeknownst to her, the sight of her curvaceous figure is enough to make Tatsumi drool. Nevertheless, she assigns Wave to accompany Tatsumi to scout the west side, while she and Kurome take the east side. A few hours later, Wave and Tatsumi are seen navigating a narrow path up to Fake Mountain. As they trek upward, Wave shares some of his experiences with girls, trying to bond with Tatsumi, who admits he has had a similar lack of experience. Suddenly, Tatsumi turns to Wave and draws his sword. Instead, he is preparing to take down some tree gump monsters that have ambushed them. After dispatching the monsters, Tatsumi seizes the opportunity to escape, activating the Incursio armor and vanishing into the woods. When Wave realizes Tatsumi is gone, panic sets in. He quickly envisions the consequences of Esdeath discovering his failure to keep an eye on Tatsumi. In a moment of desperation, he summons his own Imperial relic, Grand Chariot, which manifests as an armor similar to Incursio. Wave traces Tatsumi's path and sets off to catch up with him, moving with incredible speed. Thinking Tatsumi is just another Night Raider with the Incursio armor, Wave launches a fierce attack, fueled by his disdain for the Night Raiders. He hurls a barrage of demoralizing taunts at Tatsumi, attempting to undermine his resolve. However, Tatsumi remains undeterred, refusing to listen to Wave's words. Instead, he braces for the impact of Wave's strike, which sends him crashing into the river. Struggling against the current, Tatsumi manages to escape the water, activating the full potential of the Incursio armor, exhausted and injured. Just as he thinks he might be safe, a danger-level beast emerges from the shadows, ready to feast on the weary warrior. Fortunately, Akame appears just in time to save him, greeting Tatsumi in her own unique way. "Welcome back," she says simply, holding his hand in a gesture of camaraderie and support. Before they can catch their breath, Lub arrives, leading the two of them back to the new hideout. Meanwhile, back at the Jaeger headquarters, Esdeath learns of Tatsumi's escape and is furious. She summons Wave in front of his colleagues, delivering a harsh punishment for his failure to keep Tatsumi in check. She inflicts enough pain to make her point clear before dismissing him, hoping he would learn from this experience and never let it happen again. As she regains her composure, other team members arrive to report to her. They express their concerns about what to do if they find Tatsumi and suggest that he could potentially be an enemy. Esdeath gives them a firm order: do what they can to quell the enemy. However, deep down, she harbors a wish to be reunited with Tatsumi one day, her feelings for him conflicting with her duties as a general. Back at the Night Raid hideout, Tatsumi and his comrades gather around a table to discuss the intelligence he gathered from the Jaeger squad. He shares details about Esdeath's immense strength, painting a vivid picture of the formidable foe they face. Despite the odds, Akame promises that she will defeat Esdeath as long as she has a beating heart, her determination unwavering. That night, Stylish uses his genetically modified humans to track Tatsumi's location. After some time, he pinpoints Tatsumi holed up in the Night Raid's hideout. Meanwhile, the Night Raiders are sound asleep, having celebrated Tatsumi's return with a sense of camaraderie and relief. In the stillness of the night, Leonie awakens and decides to step outside for a drink of water from a small puddle. As she peers into her reflection, she notices something shifting beneath the surface. Before she can react, one of the Jaegers launches an attack, catching her off guard. At the same time, Stylish initiates an all-out assault on the Night Raiders. The sudden chaos jolts Lub awake, and he rushes through the corridor to alert the others. However, he encounters one of Stylish's genetically modified humans, who stands in his way. Lub quickly activates his barbed wire Imperial relic, twisting it with precision to strike at the enemy's head. To his dismay, he discovers that this particular foe has been genetically modified to resist such force. Undeterred, Lub adapts his strategy, weaving his barbed wires into a spear and thrusting it into the enemy's chest. Just as he gains the upper hand, more masked enemies appear, forcing him to retreat. In the nick of time, Akame arrives on the scene, her presence commanding and lethal. She dispatches the approaching enemies in a single strike, clearing the way for Lub to regroup. However, their victory is short-lived as a third, more powerful enemy appears, challenging Akame and giving her a hard time. Lub finds himself separated from Akame amidst the chaos. Tatsumi, clad in his Incursio armor, breaks through the wall of their hideout, ready to confront his own opponent. Tatsumi faces Kaku-san, the enemy who wields Shiel's relic. Anger surges within him at the disrespect shown by Kaku-san, and he charges at him blindly. Kaku-san, however, is ready. He skillfully uses the scissor blade to slice through Tatsumi's armor, partially immobilizing him. Gritting his teeth, Tatsumi struggles to recover Shili's weapon, but Kaku-san, filled with pride, refuses to return it. In that critical moment, Tatsumi finds himself at a disadvantage until Mine arrives on the scene. Kaku-san, underestimating her, is caught off guard. Mine aims her artillery relic at the enemy, channeling her anger and grief into a single powerful blast. The attack rips through Kaku-san, obliterating him in an instant. As the dust settles, Mine kneels down, tears streaming streaming down her face as she recovers Shiel's relic. The weight of loss and the rush of victory collide within her, and she holds the weapon close, honoring her fallen friend. At that moment, a dangerous beast known as the Air Manta soars above Stylish and his entourage, the boss lady of the Night Raiders, riding atop the creature alongside two disguised individuals. As they glide through the forest, Najenda welcomes her new recruits to the Night Raiders, expressing her hope that they're ready for a fight. Meanwhile, Akame is fully engaged in battle, skillfully cutting off an arm from her enemy. Despite his injury, the enemy continues to fight, launching an attack with his remaining arm. Akame swiftly counters, severing the other arm and leaving him enraged. Lub intervenes from behind, driving his spear into the enemy and providing Akame the opening she needs. Moving closer, Akame explains the enemy's faults before delivering the final blow, slashing his head off. As the battle unfolds, Mine and Tatsumi notice the arrival of their boss, Najenda. Overjoyed, Tatsumi expresses his envy over Najenda's impressive ride, wishing he had something similar to make a grand entrance. Their lighthearted argument is abruptly interrupted when another enemy sneaks up from behind, targeting Mine. Just as he is about to land a hit, Leon appears, kicking him back and grabbing him as if she has a personal grudge. She squeezes the life out of the poor guy, even surprising herself with the brutal display. With everyone finally regrouped, they prepare to face their enemies. Unfortunately, Stylish's cunning plan comes into play as he injects poison into the group, causing all but Tatsumi in his Incurgio armor to faint. Now, Tatsumi stands alone, relying solely on his armor for protection. However, as the enemies rush in for the attack, the remaining members of the Night Raid begin to regain their senses, ready to fight back. Amidst the chaos, one of the new recruits makes his presence known on the battlefield. Armed with a large hammer-type weapon, he charges forward, decimating the enemies in his path. Stylish, realizing the recruit may possess an Imperial relic, activates a secret bomb hidden within one of the enemies, causing it to explode near the recruit. Incredibly, the recruit regenerates his body from the blast, revealing himself to be a humanoid living relic. Once fully restored, he casually styles Mine's hair, awaiting new orders from Najenda. Najenda scans the battlefield and spots Stylish and his group. Realizing they've been discovered, Stylish and the others make a hasty retreat. However, Stylish begins to devise a plan to take down the humanoid relic as he rushes back to safety. The relic has already been caught by him. In a moment of desperation, Stylish injects himself with a poisonous substance, transforming into a giant figure with bulging muscles and pipes protruding from his body. Standing tall against his enemies, Stylish challenges anyone bold enough to face him. In response, Tatsumi, carrying Akame, charges at Stylish alongside the recruit. They attempt to slice through his armor, but it proves too strong. Just as Stylish seems to gain the upper hand, Mine joins the fray, unleashing a powerful shot from her artillery relic that strikes the giant down. Seizing the opportunity, Tatsumi and Akame make a coordinated attack on Stylish's head. Tatsumi uses his agility to maneuver around Stylish. With a final, decisive slash, Akame delivers the killing blow, and Stylish falls, defeated. With Stylish gone, Akame and Tatsumi reunite with their comrades aboard the Air Manta. The Air Manta glides through the forest, carrying Tatsumi and his comrades as they search for a discreet location to set up their new hideout. After traveling several miles, the Air Manta finally lands at the Marg Highlands. Upon disembarking from the Danger Beast, Najenda watches it take flight back to its nest at the Revolution's hideout. Najenda introduces the two new recruits to her team. The first is Chelsea, a talented assassin known for her mastery of disguise and surprise tactics. The second recruit is Suzanu, affectionately referred to as Sue. Najenda explains that Sue is an Imperial relic with the unique ability to serve as the perfect bodyguard. He can perform household chores at astonishing speed, while also protecting his allies from enemy attacks. Despite Najenda's enthusiasm, the team feels a bit underwhelmed by Sue's abilities, but they acknowledge that he will prove useful when the situation calls for it. Meanwhile, in the capital, Esdeath is consumed with worry for Tatsumi, her first love. Despite her comrades offering her comfort, she brushes it aside, determined to check on Seryu, who is mourning the loss of her teacher and doctor, Stylish. Esdeath finds Seryu in a vulnerable state, crying inconsolably to her loyal companion Koro, lamenting the loss of all her family members to the Night Raiders, whom she now sees as evildoers. Esdeath approaches and wraps her arms around Seryu, offering a tight hug. She promises to bring the Night Raiders to justice, vowing to avenge the losses Seryu has suffered. A few meters away, Wave tries to play the role of the shoulder to cry on for Seryu, only to be disheartened when he realizes Esdeath has already taken that position, leaving him feeling overshadowed. That night, after dinner, Najenda gathers her assassins for a meeting. She urges them to put their hearts and minds into their training, emphasizing that although they may be short on manpower, it doesn't mean they can't make their efforts work. The team nods in agreement, inspired by Najenda's words, and they disperse to begin their training. The next afternoon, Sue takes Akame out on a fishing trip, hoping to catch something substantial for their comrades. They reel in a massive catch, bringing it back to the hideout to prepare a delicious dinner. As the aroma of the freshly cooked fish fills the air, the group praises Najenda for finding such an incredible relic without any fuss. Najenda takes a moment to share a bit of Sue's backstory. She explains that Sue had been dormant in the Revolution camp until she arrived and reactivated him. The group listens intently, intrigued by the history of their new ally. In a humorous twist, Sue mistakenly refers to Najenda as a man, prompting laughter from the others. Annoyed, Najenda smacks Leon and Tatsumi on the head, reminding them to behave. Across the room, Mine is enjoying a slice of cake with love when a cat wanders in, eyeing her dessert. The cat asks Mine for a slice, but she initially refuses, protective of her treat. However, when she finally relents and offers a piece, the cat transforms into Chelsea, revealing her true form. Chelsea explains that her Imperial Relic is a cosmetic box that allows her to transform into anything she desires at will. Mine, taken aback and furious at the trickery, throws a fit, vowing to get back at Chelsea for her insolence. The following day, Tatsumi, now known as Incursio, and the others venture out to the surrounding fields to hunt down a few danger beasts and expand their territory. Tatsumi works seamlessly with his comrades, wielding Bulat's lance to take down their enemies with precision. Leon watches with a smile. Leonie senses that the head of the danger beasts is hiding nearby in a crevice. Activating her feral powers, she leaps high into the air, landing a decisive blow on the leader and claiming the land for the Night Raiders. When they return to the hideout, Najenda commends them for their success in defeating the beasts in their own territory, praising their teamwork and determination. Turning her attention to Chelsea, Najenda emphasizes the importance of understanding their strengths and weaknesses. Chelsea responds thoughtfully, acknowledging that while they are strong, their hot-headedness could lead them into dangerous situations. She warns that if they continue to act recklessly, they might end up like their fallen teammates. The atmosphere grows serious as the group reflects on Chelsea's words, recognizing the need for caution and strategy in their ongoing battles. That night by the campfire, Mine gathers the boys to plot a little revenge on Chelsea for insulting their pride. Despite Tatsumi's attempts to talk her out of it, Mine's anger is unyielding, and the group reluctantly agrees to come up with a plan while she rants about Chelsea's behavior. After Mine storms off to execute her own plans, Lub steps up with an idea. He suggests that Tatsumi use his Incursio armor to turn himself invisible and sneak to the lake where Chelsea goes for her bath. This way, Tatsumi can get close enough to put a bucket on her head while she's not looking. The boys are excited about the plan. He sneaks up to the edge of the water, ready to drop the bucket on Chelsea's head. However, Chelsea has already caught wind of his approach and transforms into Sue, her disguise catching Tatsumi off guard. He freezes in place, thinking the figure in the water is actually Sue. Once Tatsumi removes himself from the armor, Chelsea reveals her true form, wrapped in a towel. "Never try something like that again," she warns him. Tatsumi humbly apologizes, grateful for her kind words. Chelsea's demeanor softens as she sees how level-headed he is, and she opens up about her past. Chelsea confesses that she lost all her teammates during a mission, leaving her as the sole survivor. This experience has made her protective of her new comrades, as she doesn't want them to suffer the same fate. Tatsumi, realizing the weight of her words, tries to tease her by calling her a softie. However, Chelsea quickly retorts, warning him never to let his guard down around her. Tatsumi nods, understanding the message. The following day, Esdeath is escorted around the capital by Run, her eyes scanning the streets as she searches for Tatsumi. Run notices how weak she has become, both physically and emotionally, and decides to keep a close eye on her, concerned for her well-being. Later that night, in a dimly lit mine filled with workers, a group of golem-shaped danger beasts suddenly appears, wreaking havoc as they devour the workers. The chaos is palpable, and just as the situation seems dire, their controller reveals himself. An unidentified man stands in the shadows, a menacing smile on his face as he prepares to make his way to the capital, plotting his next move. The unidentified man makes his way to a small shed in the middle of the forest that same night. Inside, he finds a couple preparing dinner for the evening. Without hesitation, he orders his danger beasts to feast on them. The couple's desperate attempts to defend themselves against the monstrous creatures prove futile, and tragically, they lose their lives to the ravenous beasts. The following day, the Emperor summons Esdeath to warn her once more about the Night Raiders and the threat they pose. Esdeath listens intently, promising to eliminate the Night Raiders as soon as they reveal themselves from their hiding place. Before she leaves, the young Emperor inquires about her recent romantic interest, Tatsumi. Esdeath reassures him, saying she believes she will be reunited with him again, her tone reflecting both hope and determination. After her meeting with the Emperor, Prime Minister Honest meets with Esdeath to discuss the Emperor's growing curiosity about love. He reveals that the Emperor wishes to experience what it feels like to love someone. Moving on from that topic, he tasks Esdeath with investigating the path of the recent danger beasts that have been ravaging the outskirts of the capital. He informs her that Budo, the commander-in-chief of the capital, has already ordered the extermination of these beasts. Esdeath promises to take down the beasts and capture a few alive for further study. In the meantime, she requests that the Prime Minister allocate prize money to her warriors fighting in the north. Later that evening, two merchants approach the capital's gates, only to be ambushed by the danger beasts. Just in time, Bowles from the Jaeger team arrives and swiftly dispatches the beasts, saving the frightened merchants. Wave and Seryu soon join him, offering comfort to the shaken merchants. However, unbeknownst to them, more danger beasts are still on the way. Fortunately, Esdeath has already anticipated their arrival. She freezes them all in ice, completing her mission with remarkable efficiency. Once they return to the palace, Bowles prepares tea for Wave and Karome. As he serves them, Wave sighs, expressing his annoyance at the merchants who had previously shunned Bowles, despite his heroic actions. Bowles, however, brushes it off, explaining that it's nothing new. He was once a monster feared by people. For him, this is just a walk in the park. Wave is impressed by Bull's perspective and commends him for his approach to handling such situations with grace. As they continue their lighthearted discussion, Bull's wife and daughter arrive at the palace. After finding her husband, she hands him a lunch she prepared earlier, and their daughter excitedly runs to play with her daddy. Wave and Kurome watch in admiration as Bull's plays around the room with his family, a picture of happiness and warmth. Back at the Night Raiders' hideout, Tatsumi is hard at work training with his armor, in Curzio, under the watchful eyes of Su. Su observes Tatsumi's technique and strength, noting the effort he puts into each strike. He seizes the opportunity to teach Tatsumi about the importance of identifying weak points in his enemies before launching an attack. Impressed by Su's demonstration, Tatsumi commends him for being both strong and convenient in their training. However, Su humbly responds that it's his purpose as a relic to get things done quickly and effectively. This admission weighs heavily on Tatsumi, who feels a pang of sympathy for Su being reduced to an object. He reassures Su that the others view him as a comrade, emphasizing that he should not underestimate his worth. Just then, Akame arrives, summoning them back to the hideout. When asked what prompted her call, she informs them about the danger beasts that are terrorizing the capital. Tatsumi and Su hurry back to their new hideout, where they meet the rest of the Night Raiders at the entrance. Once everyone is present and settled into their completed hideout, they gather for their first meeting. Najenda begins the briefing, sharing crucial information about the danger beasts. She highlights the capital's efforts to cull these creatures, but warns that the situation is escalating beyond control. The Night Raiders must step in to help suppress the beasts and protect the innocent people. Chelsea, however, suggesting they should avoid aiding the capital this time. Tatsumi counters her argument, reminding everyone that inaction would only lead to more suffering for the people. His words resonate with the group, prompting Chelsea to reconsider her stance and fall silent. Amidst the discussion, Su notices Tatsumi's flyer has fallen, making a lighthearted joke that elicits laughter from everyone around him. The atmosphere lightens momentarily, but Chelsea takes the opportunity to approach Najenda, expressing her concerns about Tatsumi's softness. She worries that if he continues to show compassion, it may ultimately lead to his demise. In the capital, Esdeath is seen caressing some delicate flowers in the garden, lost in thought. Run arrives with new intelligence gathered from their scouts, revealing that the danger beasts were once humans. He speculates that a copycat of Dr. Stylish is conducting dangerous experiments on people, turning them into these monstrous creatures. As Run lays out various possibilities, Esdeath ponders the implications, drawing a conclusion that someone is orchestrating these events from behind the scenes. In another part of the forest, Seryu and her loyal relic, Koro, are on a rampage, ruthlessly taking down danger beasts they encounter. Their ferocity is palpable, and Seryu relishes the destruction of the beasts. However, the unidentified man, who controls the danger beasts, witnesses the death of his creations and begins to retreat, realizing that his plans may be unraveling. That night, Tatsumi and Lub embark on their usual night scout before heading to bed. As they traverse the mountainside, Tatsumi decides to lighten the mood with a humorous question about Lub's fondness for Najenda, wondering if there's a history behind their relationship. To Tatsumi's surprise, Lub's expression shifts, revealing a deeper story. Lub begins to recount his past as a spoiled son of a wealthy noble, where he found life to be dull and unexciting since he had everything he ever wanted. This all changed when he first met Najenda, who had been assigned to the city where he lived. It was love at first sight for Lub, but he quickly realized he was too weak for her to even notice him. Determined to win her heart, he joined the military and trained rigorously, eventually becoming a member of the Night Raid out of his love for her. Lub expresses his conviction that one day he will make Najenda fall in love with him. Tatsumi listens intently, commending Lub's determination, but also reminding him that if he truly wants to win Najenda's affection, he needs to change his perverse attitude. Lub bristles at the comment, insisting that he's not that bad, but after a moment of reflection, he snaps out of his defensive stance, realizing Tatsumi may have a point. Feeling the need to continue their patrol, Tatsumi activates his armor, in Curzio, and begins descending the steep mountainside in search of any lingering danger beasts. Unbeknownst to him, Esdeath is flying on her air manta in the same region, scanning the area for threats. By sheer coincidence, she catches sight of someone at the foot of the mountain. Her heart races as she recognizes Tatsumi and immediately directs her manta down to reunite with her long-lost lover. Tatsumi is equally shocked to see Esdeath, his heart pounding at the unexpected encounter. Their moment of joy is quickly interrupted as a group of danger beasts appears, threatening to attack. Before Tatsumi can strategize and escape, Esdeath springs into action. With her formidable skills, she swiftly takes down the beasts, showcasing her power and determination to protect Tatsumi. Once the threat is neutralized, Esdeath turns her full attention back to Tatsumi, her eyes filled with a mix of relief and affection. Lub senses an intruder approaching with an aura reminiscent of Dr. Stylish. Could it be his apprentice? As Esdeath wraps herself around Tatsumi, basking in their reunion, she asks him what he is doing at the foot of such a random mountain. Tatsumi, feeling trapped, requests that she let him go first so he can explain. When she refuses to release him, he finally admits that he has been training at the mountain, fighting the danger beasts in his free time. Esdeath's smile widens at his dedication, and she inquires if he has joined the Revolutionary Army yet. She checks his body for signs of improvement, and notices that his muscles have grown stronger. With a gentle pat on his head, she encourages him to keep growing stronger. Meanwhile, Tatsumi internally prays for the moment to end swiftly, feeling the weight of their complicated relationship. Despite her affection, Esdeath remains vigilant, sensing the presence of the one behind the danger beasts. Suddenly, the intruder steps out, serious and ready to fight Esdeath and her plaything. Esdeath demands answers, but the man responds by summoning his imperial relic, Shambra, and uses it to teleport them to an island in the southeastern part of the capital. Moments after arriving on the island, Tatsumi, still reeling from the sudden change in location, begs Esdeath to pinch him to confirm that he's not dreaming. Instead, she kisses him, affirming to herself that they are indeed in reality. After the kiss, she takes the opportunity to explain the concept of imperial relics to Tatsumi, assuming he is too naive to know about them. Tatsumi, wanting to keep his true nature hidden, pretends not to understand. Just then, Esdeath summons an ice mountain that lifts them high into the sky, allowing them to survey the ocean below. As Tatsumi gazes out, Esdeath hugs him again, a smile on her face. However, the moment of tranquility is abruptly interrupted when a giant danger beast appears. Esdeath's demeanor shifts as she smiles, creating ice spikes that puncture the beast all over its body. The creature rises, undeterred, and Esdeath quickly conjures a large ice log to strike its head. The beast dodges the attack. With determination, he plunges his sword deep into the controller's heart, rendering it unconscious. Esdeath watches in awe as Tatsumi displays his bravery and skill. Following his decisive blow, she summons a massive boulder and uses it to pulverize the giant beast into pieces, showcasing her incredible ice powers. Tatsumi stands in awe of Esdeath's strength and control over her abilities. After defeating the giant danger beast, Esdeath and Tatsumi find a serene spot under a coconut tree to take a break and document their findings so far. As they sit together, Tatsumi becomes a bit too animated in their conversation, getting carried away with his words. Fortunately, Esdeath is too engrossed in drawing a picture of herself and Tatsumi together to notice his slip-up. The rest of the day passes in peace and happiness, with the two enjoying each other's company amid the tranquility of the island. As night falls, Esdeath turns to Tatsumi and asks him what he would like to do now that they are alone on the island. Tatsumi, feeling a mix of apprehension and humor, tells her not to get any funny ideas. Esdeath chuckles at his response and stands up, determined to find a way back to the capital. Tatsumi follows her, secretly waiting for an opportunity to escape her grasp. They search the island for a long time, exploring its nooks and crannies. Eventually, they stumble upon a purple glowing hole in the ground. Esdeath speculates that if they can stand there long enough, the gate may reopen one day, allowing them to return home. Curious about Tatsumi, Esdeath takes the opportunity to learn more about him. She asks him to share his story, and Tatsumi seizes the moment to weave a fable, a story that never happened. As he spins his tale, he gets a not-so-bright idea, and asks Esdeath to join in their charade, prompting her to share her past as well. Esdeath begins her story, revealing that she was once the daughter of the chief of a small settlement in the north. Their village specialized in hunting danger beasts, selling their body parts to the nobles in exchange for resources. As a young girl, Esdeath was strong, and her father instilled in her the importance of survival and strength. He often told her that only the weak die while the strong survive. One day she witnessed a war between ants, an event that left a lasting impression on her. Her father appeared that day, reinforcing his peculiar theories about strength and survival. Life was good for Esdeath until one fateful day when she returned to her settlement to find her father dead, a victim of a raid by the northern race. In his dying breath, he urged her to remain strong and fight until the very end. Following her father's death, Esdeath traveled to the capital, driven by her desire to join the military. She worked tirelessly to climb the ranks, ultimately becoming the strongest in the Empire's military. Intrigued, Tatsumi asks Esdeath if she was only fighting the Northerners for revenge. Esdeath shakes her head, her expression serious. She explains that her motivations were never rooted in revenge. Instead, she fought because she enjoyed killing. It was simply in her nature. The revelation hangs heavy in the air, and Tatsumi feels a chill run down his spine. His curiosity piqued as he asks her about her imperial relic. In response, Esdeath places his hand on the insignia on her chest. She begins to recount her past, explaining that before she obtained her relic, she had sought one from the Prime Minister one fateful night. During her visit, she tested various normal relics, but none were a fit for her. Frustrated, she made a bold decision to drink the blood of a dragon beast that controlled ice, a relic known for driving most of its drinkers insane. However, Esdeath reveals that she was able to drink the blood and control its numbing effects, a testament to her strength and resilience. As Tatsumi listens to her story, a sinking realization washes over him. He understands that he cannot possibly turn Esdeath against the Empire. She is a born killer, someone who believes wholeheartedly in the philosophy of strength. The weight of her nature and her loyalty to the Empire settles heavily in the air between them. Meanwhile, back in the capital, their attacker, the son of the Prime Minister, awakens from his slumber. He releases the teleportation spell that had confined Esdeath and Tatsumi. At that moment, Tatsumi spots an air manta nearby and urges Esdeath to go after it. Understanding the urgency, rushes to find the manta. The exit they had been seeking suddenly appears before them. Tatsumi contemplates his options, torn between fleeing to safety and staying with Esdeath. Ultimately, he calls out to her, urging her to come after him. As Esdeath materializes at the foot of the mountain, she quickly realizes that Tatsumi has disappeared. A wave of dejection washes over her as she scans the area, hoping to catch a glimpse of him. In that moment of solitude, she promises herself that she will meet Tatsumi again. However, Tatsumi, now far away, knows that when they meet next, it will likely be on the battlefield. The thought sends a shiver down his spine as he grapples with the reality of their conflicting paths. The next day, Chelsea dons a disguise as a maid, utilizing her imperial relic to infiltrate the residence of a corrupt politician. As the politician gazes down at the people of the capital from his window, Chelsea seizes the opportunity. With precision, she uses her poison needles to sever a vital artery supplying blood to the politician's brain, killing him instantly. Wave and Seryu from the Jaeger force arrive on the scene, ready to protect the politician. However, they are met with the grim sight of his lifeless body, and the killer has already vanished without a trace. Unbeknownst to them, Chelsea has transformed herself into a cat. Chelsea returns to the Night Raiders' hideout to report her successful mission. The team gathers around as she shares the details, and Mine expresses her surprise at Chelsea's ability to pull it off. She commends Chelsea for her strength, but the moment is quickly followed by playful teasing from the others. Akame, however, reminds the group that Chelsea's success means the Jaeger group will be coming after them more aggressively than ever. Lub and Leon take the opportunity to poke fun at Tatsumi, teasing him about his recent night out with the sadistic Esdeath. Tatsumi pleads with them to stop the teasing, but Leon is relentless, enjoying the banter far too much. Just then, Najenda, their boss, returns from a shower, ready to discuss her former partner, Esdeath. Tatsumi, confused, asks about Najenda's age, prompting a surprising revelation. She is still in her mid-20s. Tatsumi expresses his shock at how young she is, but Akame quickly intervenes, warning him never to ask a woman about her age again. As the conversation continues, food is finally ready, and Akame rushes to eat, leaving Tatsumi on the ground. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the capital, Seryu is on a rampage, having captured and killed 3 food thieves. Although their crime was stealing food, Seryu's brutal response raises eyebrows. Wave catches up to her shortly after, horrified by her actions. He tries to reason with her, urging her to reconsider her violent approach, but Seryu simply smiles, unfazed by the innocent lives she has taken. With a sense of satisfaction, she heads back to the palace, leaving Wave to grapple with the moral decay he witnesses around him. Back at the Night Raiders' hideout, Najenda gathers the team to explain their new mission. She introduces them to a religious group known as the Path of Peace, who preach ideals of peace and good deeds. However, with their growing number of followers, rumors of an uprising against the Empire are beginning to surface. Najenda outlines their plan to exploit this uprising to manipulate the people, and ultimately bring the Empire to its knees. Tatsumi protests, expressing his concerns about the potential consequences of such actions. Najenda, however, firmly states that there is nothing they can do to prevent the uprising from happening. She elaborates on the Revolutionary Army's strategy, revealing that they plan to launch a 3-pronged attack to overwhelm the Empire in a single decisive battle. As she points to various locations on the map laid out on the table, she explains the nature and identity of their allies. The plan is to strike from the middle, and in return for assisting the Revolutionary Army in dismantling the Empire, the Westerners will reclaim the land that was taken from them. Najenda concludes her briefing by highlighting a critical piece of information. The assistant to the leader of the Path of Peace is a spy from Honest, tasked with drugging the populace to quell the uprising. This cannot happen, as it could lead to mass overdoses and unnecessary death. Before they can head to Kyorok, the headquarters of the Path of Peace, they must eliminate at least 2 members of the Jaeger team, Bowles and Karome, to ensure their mission proceeds smoothly. Meanwhile, Esdeath is alerted to the presence of Akame and Mine, 2 members of the Night Raiders, roaming the streets. Seizing the opportunity, she rallies her forces to prepare for a confrontation with the raiders. Almost immediately, they mount their horses and ride out of the capital. 2 spies stationed at the entrance of the capital quickly send a messenger bird to inform Najenda of Esdeath's approach. Upon receiving the news, Najenda instructs Akame and Mine to attract as much attention as possible. To do this, they change into their swimsuits and play around in the river, creating a scene that is sure to draw eyes. Akame confides her concerns about her sister, Karome, who has been given orders to kill her. Mine, sensing the weight of Akame's fears, sits beside her and reassures her that she is never alone in this world. Esdeath and her team make a stop at a nearby town to discuss their findings regarding the Night Raiders. They deduce that the raiders have lured them out of the capital, likely hoping to spring a trap. However, now that they are aware of this tactic, Esdeath believes they have the upper hand. She assigns Kurome, Wave, and Bowls to pursue Akame, while she, Seryu, and Run will go after Najenda. After dishing out the orders, the group splits up, each team heading in their designated direction. Wave's team quickly sets off to search for Akame. As they ride toward the canyon, Bowls expresses his concerns about the strength of the Night Raiders. Wave, trying to reassure him, recounts his previous encounter with Tatsumi, emphasizing that they shouldn't underestimate their opponents but also not to worry too much. As they continue their journey, the trio approaches a suspicious scarecrow standing ominously in a field. They dismount their horses and cautiously approach it, unaware that Mine is watching from above with her sniper rifle. Recognizing Kurome among them, Mine takes aim and prepares to shoot. However, Kurome manages to dodge the shot just in time, quickly pinpointing Mine's location. At that moment, Sue emerges from the scarecrow, launching Wave into the air with surprising strength. The sudden attack signals the arrival of Najenda and the rest of the Night Raiders. As the tension escalates, Bowls reflects on his family, making a silent promise to himself that he will not die that day. Meanwhile, Kurome, filled with determination, finally gets to see her sister again. After a brief but emotional reunion, she draws her swords and summons the corpses of 8 formidable foes she had killed earlier, commanding them to rise and fight alongside her. To further bolster her forces, Kurome conjures a bone golem. As the battle begins to unfold, Akame lunges at her sister, determined to strike first. She lands on the head of the bone golem, one of their deceased friends, Natala, defending Kurome with fierce loyalty. Akame is taken aback by her sister's willingness to go to such lengths to win, causing her to lose focus for just a moment. This lapse in concentration allows Kurome to land a hit on her. In a desperate move, Bowls activates his relic, aiming to incinerate Akame before she hits the ground. Just in the nick of time, Tatsumi swoops in and catches Akame, saving her from a fatal fall, while Kurome orders her golem to create a bomb from its mouth, creates a deep crater in the ground before them. Lub, who has been hiding from Kurome's sight, steels himself for the fight, determined to protect Najenda and fight for his honor. Meanwhile, Sue grapples with Destagul, urging Najenda to stay out of danger while he takes on the formidable golem. From her vantage point, Mine prepares to take a sniper shot at Kurome and her bodyguard. Just as she is about to pull the trigger, Natala intercepts her, preventing the shot from being fired. Tatsumi finds himself engaged in a fierce struggle against 2 newly summoned corpses. One is an ape man, and the other is a cloaked assassin with an agile and flexible body. The intensity of the battle escalates as Akame faces off against Bowls, attempting to land a hit. Unfortunately for her, yet another corpse, one of Najenda's deceased colleagues, appears to protect Bowls, throwing Leone off course and using its whip to keep her at bay. As the chaos of the battle royale continues, Kurome takes the opportunity to introduce her toys to the enemies. Kurome tantalizingly hints at a final trump card that she will reveal when the time is right. Leone figures out Rock's trick and manages to grab hold of his whip. Just then, Najenda arrives to assist Leone in her battle against Rock. In her excitement, Leone momentarily forgets about Kurome, who seizes the opportunity to slice off Leone's left arm with a swift and brutal strike. Reacting quickly, Leone uses her regenerative abilities to staunch the bleeding, determined to continue fighting despite her injury. At that moment, Chelsea prepares herself to join the fray, her resolve hardening as she readies her weapons. After stopping her bleeding, Najenda quickly orders Leone to support Akame while she continues to hold off Rock, one of Kurome's formidable allies. Leone acknowledges the order and rushes to join Akame, ready to assist her in the fight against Bowls and his bodyguard. Meanwhile, Esdeath begins to sense that something is amiss. They should have caught up to Najenda by now, but instead, they are confronted by a group of tardy bandits who threaten them. Esdeath, growing impatient, orders her team to eliminate the bandits swiftly so they can resume their pursuit of Najenda. Elsewhere, Akame takes a deep breath, circling Bowls and his bodyguard, Vol. Bowls uses Vol as a distraction. However, Akame sees through his tactics and charges at him. Bowls narrowly dodges her attack, prompting Akame to retreat and reassess her strategy. In a moment of pause, Bowls questions her motives for joining the night raid. Akame responds resolutely, stating that she joined to uphold her beliefs and has no regrets about her choice. Just then, Leone arrives to support Akame, bolstering her confidence. Meanwhile, Najenda continues her battle against Rock, who employs his infamous Earthshaker technique. Najenda skillfully dodges the attack and counters with her extendable arm, but it's not enough to take Rock down. Frustrated by Kurome's relic, she channels her anger into a powerful punch that sends Rock soaring into the air, placing him directly in the path of Destagul's fiery blast. Reuniting with Sue, Najenda authorizes him to unleash his hidden ability against Destagul. As the battle rages on, Tatsumi finds himself engaged with Hentar, the cloaked assassin. However, Hentar becomes distracted when he spots one of his comrades nearby. He leaves the fight, hoping for a reunion, but is met with a deadly surprise as Chelsea, disguised as the comrade, reveals herself and swiftly kills him before he realizes what's happening. Tatsumi expresses his gratitude to Chelsea as she retreats back into the forest, leaving him to face his next opponent. He activates Incurzio's power, delivering a devastating punch that sends his enemy flying. Meanwhile, Kurome sits in her resting place, snacking and worrying about Wave. When she notices that her puppets have stopped moving, she picks up her sword, preparing to return to the capital. Elsewhere, Wave regains consciousness, struggling to get back into the fight but collapsing from the weakness caused by his earlier fall. As Mine attempts to sneak up on Kurome, the latter unleashes her secret weapon, the eighth corpse, known as Kaiser Frog. The massive frog swallows Mine whole, removing her from the battlefield. Soon after, Tatsumi arrives and confronts Kurome, but she leaves him to face her old friend, Natala. In a dramatic turn, Su taps into his master's hidden ability, transforming into a full-fledged Susanoo. He summons a colossal sword and uses it to slice Destahul into pieces, turning the tide of battle. While Tatsumi engages Natala, Kurome notices something strange about the Kaiser Frog. Just then, Mine manages to blow a hole in the frog's stomach, escaping its grasp. She and Tatsumi exchange a few words, their camaraderie evident even amidst the chaos. Najenda soon joins them, and Kurome feels a surge of rage, determined to eliminate all four of them right then and there. Meanwhile, Leon and Akame work in tandem to take down Wool. After successfully slicing off his hands, they turn their attention to Bowls. However, as they approach, Wool manages to shoot Leon's other hand with a hidden weapon. Despite the injury, Leon perseveres and breaks Wool's relic, rendering it useless. In a desperate move, Bowls activates his last resort. He places down his load and presses a button, triggering a massive explosion that threatens to engulf both Leon and Akame. After the deafening explosion caused by Bowls' last resort, Tatsumi, Najenda, and Su scan their surroundings, only to discover that Kurome has managed to escape. Meanwhile, Leon and Akame are also saved from the explosion, but Leon, completely exhausted, collapses from the strain of the battle. Surprisingly, Bowls emerges from the explosion with only minor injuries. He had cleverly substituted himself with Wool just moments before the blast, saving his own life at the cost of his comrade. Feeling guilt wash over him, he apologizes for his actions, vowing to do better in the future. The memory of a peaceful night flashes through his mind, Esdeath forcing him to remove his mask and join the others for dinner. The warmth of that moment strengthens his resolve to ensure he can share such beautiful dinners with his colleagues and family once more. As he snaps back to reality, Bowls hears a little girl crying at the foot of a nearby tree. He realizes that his scary mask frightens her even more. He gently urges her to remain quiet while he tends to the injury on her leg, showing a softer side beneath his intimidating exterior. While Bowls quietly bandages the girl's injury, he allows himself to be vulnerable, exposing his back to potential danger. Suddenly, the little girl asks him about the places he's burned in his life, prompting him to reflect on his past. Before he can answer, Chelsea reappears, transforming back into her true form and swiftly puncturing his artery, leaving him to bleed out. As he feels life slipping away, Bowls accepts his fate, but wishes for one last chance to see his family. Chelsea retreats to the trees, watching him die, her expression a mixture of satisfaction and sorrow. Moments later, Lub catches up to Chelsea, commending her for her finesse in killing. Chelsea asks Lub to find reinforcements while she seeks out Kurome and the others. Despite Lub's concerns for her safety, Chelsea reassures him not to worry. Trusting her instincts, Lub runs back into the forest to gather reinforcements. Once he is gone, Chelsea transforms into Bowls' likeness and sets out to find Kurome. In another part of the forest, Kurome takes a moment to rest under a tree. Memories of her past flood her mind. Specifically, her time with Akame during their rigorous assassin training. Back then, Kurome was the weaker of the two sisters, always relying on Akame to protect her from the danger beasts their cruel masters forced them to face. Growing tired of being dependent on her sister, Kurome resolved to learn the art of killing herself. After overcoming the most challenging trial in their training, both sisters graduated as full-fledged assassins. However, their masters refused to allow them to be on the same team, fearing their bond would make them too reliant on each other. Despite Akame's desperate attempts to fight for her sister's inclusion, she was ultimately powerless to change their fate. Separated from Akame, Kurome was taken to a laboratory where she underwent horrifying experiments. It was there that she began taking doses of a power-enhancing drug, transforming her into the deadly assassin she is today. The memories of her past, filled with pain and loss. After the intense battle, the Night Raiders set up camp in a shed deep within the forest to recuperate and tend to their wounds. Leon, boasting about her impressive regenerative powers, gets her hand reattached, much to the admiration of her comrades. Najenda compliments her abilities, but reminds her that Su's regeneration powers are on another level entirely. Meanwhile, Mine is getting her hand fixed by Su, and her cries of pain echo through the shed. Tatsumi rushes to her side, trying to calm her down. Just as he does, Lub arrives, bringing news about Chelsea's current situation. Chelsea, now disguised as Bowls, has successfully located Kurome in her hiding place. Drawing on what she learned from Tatsumi about how to relate to the Jaegers, she seamlessly adopts Bowls' persona, fooling Kurome long enough to lower her guard. However, Chelsea remains cautious, suspecting that Kurome possesses a hidden power. After Lub explains Chelsea's situation, Mine shares her concerns about Kurome's super-fast reflexes, attributing them to the drug she has been taking. They realize that whatever enhancement Kurome is using, they need to uncover it quickly to gain an advantage. In the meantime, Chelsea, still in disguise, escorts Kurome toward the captain. Suddenly, Kurome collapses, reaching for her snacks. Seizing the opportunity, Chelsea bends down and mercilessly punctures one of Kurome's vital organs before leaving her for dead. However, in her haste, Chelsea makes a critical mistake by not decapitating Kurome. As Chelsea walks away, she begins to reflect on her own life. She recalls how she has always been a freeloader, dreaming of marrying into a wealthy family. Her life took a dark turn when she worked as a part-time maid in the viceroy's house and discovered that he hunted and killed slaves for sport. One fateful night, while working in the basement, she stumbled upon her imperial relic hidden in the storage area. The next day, she shared her discovery with her colleagues, and after learning how to use it, she made her first kill, the viceroy himself. The townspeople praised her for ridding them of the cruel man, marking the beginning of Chelsea's path as an assassin. As Chelsea reflects on her past, she turns her back on Kurome's body, believing her task is complete. Just then, Kurome regains consciousness and vows to kill Chelsea before she dies again. In a panic, Chelsea throws a smoke bomb to cover her escape. However, Kurome summons Natala and Doya to chase after her, determined to exact revenge. The chase leads them to a beautiful field of flowers, where they eventually catch up to Chelsea. In a brutal confrontation, Natala holds Chelsea by the neck and uses her lance to deliver a fatal blow, cutting off her head. A few days later, Tatsumi and Akame sneak into the capital to assess the situation in town. As Tatsumi activates his armor, Incursio, and utilizes its invisibility powers, he makes his way to the town square. There, he finds a crowd gathered, staring up at a pole. Curiosity piqued, Tatsumi looks up and is horrified to see Chelsea's head impaled on the pole, a grim reminder of the brutality and stakes of their ongoing conflict. The shocking sight leaves Tatsumi reeling, and he realizes the extent of the danger they face from the Jaeger team and the Empire. After a long and much-needed sleep, Tatsumi returns to the camp, feeling refreshed yet contemplative. As the morning sun rises, he reflects deeply on his role within the Night Raid assassin group and the weight of their mission. Meanwhile, Esdeath and her elite unit, the Jaeger, arrive in Kiorak and report to Advisor Bolich for duty. The Commander-in-Chief welcomes them warmly and offers them accommodations at his prestigious mansion. Before settling in, Esdeath takes the opportunity to inform Bolich about the notorious activities of the Night Raiders, requesting to be shown the individuals who have been spying on them. Bolich reveals the existence of the Rakshasa demons, a group of experts in body control, all four of whom fight without imperial relics. Seryu, underestimating their capabilities, scoffs at the idea. However, one of the Rakshasa demons sneaks up behind her, demonstrating their incredible strength without the use of relics. They express confidence in their ability to take down the humans wielding the relics if they can identify their weak points. Esdeath observes the situation and realizes just how crucial Bolich's organization is to the Prime Minister's plans. Meanwhile, Kurome is seen panting heavily, still recovering from her injuries. Kurome is soon taken to a sickbed, where she receives care. After a few hours of rest, Kurome awakens and urgently begs Esdeath to allow her to fight in their next battle. Esdeath, assessing her condition, tests her strength and ultimately deems her worthy to join the fight. However, Wave, who has been anxiously following Kurome, enters her personal room and discovers that she has not fully recovered yet. Concerned, he questions her relentless desire to fight despite her weakened state. Kurome responds with a grim determination, explaining that as an assassin, if she is found lacking and unable to fulfill her role, she will be disposed of silently before anyone even knows it. Wave, desperate to comfort Kurome, tries to reassure her that it would be okay if they informed their boss about her condition. However, Kurome, having already faced the brutal reality of being viewed as expendable, dismisses his words. She understands all too well the stakes involved in their line of work, where weakness could lead to swift disposal. Meanwhile, Tatsumi and Mine have arrived in Kiorak. Mine advises Tatsumi to keep a low profile to avoid drawing unwanted attention. Despite the recent trauma of witnessing the death of a former team member, Tatsumi manages to keep his composure and even treats them to ice cream. Mine is impressed by his ability to remain calm and uses the moment to discuss the state of the city. She explains that the seemingly calm and happy demeanor of the townspeople is a facade, maintained by the Prime Minister, who keeps them well fed to ensure they continue mining gold for his personal gain. Tatsumi frowns at the minister's sinister manipulation and expresses his hope that they can put an end to the corruption soon. As they converse, Lub moves through the town silently, his thoughts consumed by an agenda. Unbeknownst to him, two members of the Rakshasa, Sten and Mez, have already caught up to him. They stalk him silently, waiting for the cover of darkness to make their move. As night falls, Akame walks through the graveyard of Kiorak, accompanied by two guards for protection. While munching on a chicken drumstick, she is suddenly confronted by Ibra, one of the four demons. He swiftly dispatches the two guards, leaving Akame to face him alone. Her anger ignites, and she lunges at him in fury. Ibra, however, skillfully dodges her attacks, moving with a fluidity that suggests he is in complete control of his body. Meanwhile, Sten and Mez ambush Lub, landing a hit on him. After being struck, Lub plays dead, using his wires to reduce his heartbeat in an attempt to go unnoticed. His plan seems to be working until the lady he was supposed to meet arrives. Realizing he cannot let her die, drawing the attention of his attackers. Underestimating him, Stan and Mez prepare to finish him off, but Lub seizes the opportunity to showcase his impressive skills. With a sudden burst of energy, he springs into action, surprising the Rakshasa demons with his agility and combat prowess. The unexpected display of strength catches them off guard as Lub fights back, determined to protect the innocent woman and prove that he is more than just a pervert. In a tense standoff, Akame surrenders her blade, Murasame, to Ibra. However, the sword proves incompatible with him, resulting in a curse that afflicts his hand. Seizing the moment of distraction, Akame swiftly slices off Ibra's hand, and the poison from her blade begins to spread through his body. Within moments, Ibra succumbs to the lethal effects of the poison and dies instantly. Just then, Run appears, gathering the information he needs for Esdeath before taking flight to report back. Meanwhile, Lub stands his ground against the Rakshasa demons, Mez and Sten. He skillfully manipulates his wires into the shape of an axe and attacks Sten. Sten, hardening his body, manages to hold the axe at bay while taunting Lub. However, Lub cleverly directs Sten's attention to the girl they had initially held hostage. Upon realizing she has escaped, Sten decides to pursue Lub to finish him off. As Sten chases after him, Lub reminds him of the destructive potential of his wires. Sten inadvertently runs into a trap that Lub had set. Lub seizes the opportunity to throw a powerful spear, piercing Sten's body. Sten, undeterred, claims it's still not enough to take him down. Lub, with a confident smile, reveals that the wires embedded in Sten's body are about to activate, as the wires constrict around Sten's heart, destroying it from within. With his heart gone, Mez arrives shortly after, ready to confront Lub. However, Lub has already set wire traps throughout the area. As Mez assesses the situation, she cleverly manipulates her sweat to weigh down the wires, creating a distraction. While Lub is momentarily caught off guard, she punches him to the ground and approaches to deliver the finishing blow. In a desperate move, Lub throws two cleaver knives at Mez, but she dodges and seizes his neck. Just as she prepares to strike, the two knives boomerang back, stabbing her in the back. With Mez incapacitated, Lub recovers his knives and finishes her off, then makes a dramatic escape, leaving the scene like a hero. Elsewhere, Mine and Tatsumi are seen playfully teasing each other, but their banter quickly escalates into a bickering match. Suddenly, the leader of the Path of Peace appears, accompanied by his followers, to intervene and stop their quarrel. He introduces himself and explains that he has been patrolling the mountains to ensure everything is in order. With a grin, he advises Mine and Tatsumi to consider becoming a couple, much to their surprise. Back in Bollock's building, a random lady offers herself to Bollock, swirling around him in a flirtatious display. However, the atmosphere shifts dramatically when news of the deaths of 3 Rakshasa demons reaches Bollock and Esdeath. Enraged, Esdeath vows to crush Najenda and her people right there in Kyorok. The following day, Wave and the other members of the Jaeger unit step out of their inn to stretch their legs. While Seryu plays joyfully with the local children, Wave and Suzuka, the last member of the Rakshasa demons, focus on pinpointing the exact location of the Night Raiders. They pause their search to watch Seryu, impressed by her ability to connect with the kids. Once they are gone, Seryu clenches her fists, vowing to uphold justice in the land, her determination evident in her expression. That night, Najenda gathers her team for another critical meeting. This time, the mission is to infiltrate the Viceroy's palace during Kyorok's festival and eliminate Viceroy Bollock. The assassination is crucial for encouraging the Revolutionary Army to advance in their invasion efforts. The team absorbs the information, preparing themselves for the dangerous task ahead. Before they set out, Sue enters with a spread of special food for everyone, advising them to eat well before potentially sacrificing their lives for peace. Grateful for Sue's efforts, the team digs into the meal, finishing quickly as they gear up for the mission. As the festival gets underway, Suzuka and Seryu find a vantage point atop a building. After scanning the area, they spot Tatsumi and Mine. They rush after them, but Tatsumi and Mine manage to flee the city just in time, seeking refuge in a dilapidated building. Inside, Mine hurriedly rubs the makeup off her face and turns to Tatsumi, asking if any remnants remain. As she leans in close, Tatsumi misinterprets the situation, his face flushing red from embarrassment. Their playful banter quickly escalates into a lover's quarrel, the two bickering without realizing that Seryu and Koro have tracked them down. After confirming their identities, Seryu fuses with Koro, summoning her city justice detector. She mutters a few nonsensical phrases about her clouded sense of justice, vowing to eliminate the 2 Night Raiders before her. Just as they prepare to leave, Seryu launches a barrage of missiles toward Tatsumi and Mine. Fortunately, Tatsumi senses the incoming missiles just in time. Activating his Incursio armor, he grabs Mine and swiftly escapes the building. Once they reach safety, Mine retrieves her pumpkin artillery, readying herself for a fight. Suzuka suddenly appears, launching an attack on Tatsumi and Mine. Tatsumi quickly engages her, landing a punch that sends her tumbling off the rock they were hiding on. Mine, fueled by her desire for revenge against the one who killed her best friend, Shio, decides to face Seryu directly. Seryu and Koro arrive on the scene, and Seryu immediately fires a warhead at Mine. In a swift move, Mine uses her artillery to shoot down the warhead. She climbs to the rock where Mine is hiding. Mine, determined to take her down, fires at Seryu and Koro's weak points in an attempt to destroy them before they can power up. However, Seryu manages to power up just in time, and Mine's efforts are thwarted. As Mine tries to retreat to regroup, Seiryu catches up to her and unleashes a brutal assault, beating her mercilessly. Meanwhile, Tatsumi struggles against Suzuka, who manages to evade his attacks and insults his inexperience, making him feel weak. Her words cut deep, but Tatsumi steals his resolve, vowing to prove that he can stand against her. Back at the Viceroy's palace, Sue and Leon are engaged in combat with Kurome and her guards, fighting their way to gain entry. After dispatching Kurome's guards, Leone lunges at Kurome with a powerful punch. Just in time, Wave arrives to block Leon's attack, protecting Kurome. Inside the palace, Esdeath confronts Bolich, warning him to remain on his throne and comply with her demands. She makes it clear that any disobedience will result in his death. Tatsumi leads her into an abandoned building. He strategically targets the structural weak points, causing the building to collapse on her. His plan succeeds, and Suzuka is buried under the rubble. Tatsumi rushes back to find Mine, who has managed to regain her footing. Armed with her artillery weapon again, Mine spots Seiryu and Koro approaching, ready to finish the fight. She fires her big gun at them, slicing Seiryu and Koro in half. With half of her body gone, Seiryu realizes there's nothing left for her. In a final act of desperation, she activates a self-destruct timer, spewing disdainful words as she dares Mine to escape the blast radius. Mine, realizing the imminent danger, attempts to flee but finds her legs giving out at the last moment. Seiryu detonates seconds later, and Mine is caught in the explosion's radius. Miraculously, Mine opens her eyes a few moments later to find herself in Tatsumi's arms. He welcomes her back to reality, expressing gratitude that he was able to save one of his comrades this time. Mine, still shaken but relieved, teases Tatsumi a little and thanks him from the bottom of her heart, their bond strengthened by the harrowing experience. Esdeath returns to the Viceroy's throne to search for Bolich. She finds the throne empty and searches the room for him. However, Najenda told her to quit searching for him, as Bolich was probably dead by now. She gloats about her victory this time and returns to her hideout, making sure she isn't seen by Esdeath. Mine, after thanking Tatsumi for his help, smiles and starts having feelings for him. She makes Tatsumi promise that he'll survive his battles. Tatsumi makes the promise and smiles back at her. In the next scene, Prime Minister Honest convenes a meeting with other high-ranking officials of the Empire to discuss the current situation. Tension fills the room as one of the officials voices concerns about the Viceroys defecting to the rebels, warning that this could lead to significant problems for the Empire if left unaddressed. Honest, however, remains unfazed. He urges the officials not to worry too much about what he deems useless Viceroys, revealing that he had anticipated such defections. Commander-in-Chief Budo interjects, assuring the Prime Minister of his unwavering commitment to eradicating the rebel group that threatens the capital. Honest expresses gratitude for Budo's patriotism, but insists that he has a plan in place to deal with the rebels, introducing a new special elite unit he has just created. At that moment, Honest's son, Siura, enters the room accompanied by a group of warriors. The Prime Minister proudly introduces Siura as the head of the new elite force, urging the officials to place their trust in his skills. With the meeting adjourned, Honest reminds Siura to make a strong first impression on the people to quell any doubts about his leadership. Shura nods, accepting his father's wishes with determination. Meanwhile, Wave and Kurome are served lunch by Run. As they eat, they express their frustrations about the new elite force established by Honest and his officials to combat the rebels. Wave's anger boils over as he feels sidelined by the Prime Minister, lamenting that even though only half of their original squad remains, they should still be on the front lines fighting against evil. In the midst of their meal, Kurome suddenly collapses, her condition a stark reminder of the toll their battles have taken on her. Later, Lub and Tatsumi stealthily make their way into the capital to assess the current state of affairs. They quickly notice the heightened military presence around the palace, realizing that the situation has become more precarious for them. Meanwhile, Leon and Mine are diligently studying the aqueducts that run throughout the capital. As they assess the construction, they notice the carelessness in its design, recognizing that they can exploit this oversight to their advantage in their upcoming plans. While they work, Leon's playful nature shines through as she teases Mine about her feelings for Tatsumi. Mine, caught off guard and embarrassed, covers her face and tries to ignore Leon's jabs, though a smile tugs at her lips despite her efforts to maintain composure. Elsewhere, Akame, Najenda, and Sue are busy dishing out instructions to the two rebels accompanying them. On the other side of the capital, Lub takes the opportunity to tease Tatsumi about his feelings for Mine, jokingly asking him when the wedding date will be. Tatsumi, flustered and determined to focus on their mission, brushes off Lub's comments and continues moving forward until they find their contact within the Empire. The contact leads them to a discreet part of the palace, guiding them toward a small meeting house that blends into the surroundings. Upon reaching the shed, they notice blood seeping out from beneath the door. Lub, sensing something is amiss, opens the door to reveal a horrifying sight. The room is filled with the bodies of former rebels, a gruesome testament to the Empire's brutality. Before they can process the horror before them, the entire place suddenly explodes, and from the smoke emerges Siura, Honest's son. Siura immediately recognizes Tatsumi, a smirk spreading across his face as he taunts him about life on the island. His words grate on Tatsumi's nerves, provoking him into a blind rage. Tatsumi lunges at Sayura, ready to unleash his frustration, but his attack is swiftly intercepted by the imposing figure of Commander-in-Chief Budo. Towering over them, Budo wields a massive imperial relic known as a Dramelech, an armor type capable of unleashing devastating lightning attacks. With a powerful strike, Budo attacks Tatsumi, who blocks the blow with his sword, but is still sent flying several feet backward from the sheer force. Determined to fight back, Tatsumi summons his Incursio armor, positioning himself to face Budo in a fierce battle. Lub, witnessing Tatsumi's struggle, attempts to rush in and help, but Shura and his men quickly intervene, blocking Lub's path. Elsewhere, Esdeath effortlessly dispatches the last remaining enemies in her path. Her prowess solidifies her reputation as a formidable force within the Empire, and she is eager to return and assert her dominance. Meanwhile, Lub faces off against Sayura, the Prime Minister's son, and begins to test the limits of Sayura's powers. He quickly realizes that Sayura's imperial relic, Shambhala, is a teleportation device capable of moving him across vast distances. Before engaging in battle, Sayura injects himself with a substance that enables him to create teleportation circles all around the Empire. Lub pretends to run away from Sayura, who eagerly pursues him, teleporting at various angles and knocking him down with each attack. Meanwhile, Tatsumi engages in a fierce battle against Commander-in-Chief Budo, looking for openings in his attacks to strike at his core. Budo pauses mid-fight, asking Tatsumi for his name. Upon hearing it, Budo expresses appreciation for Tatsumi's discipline and promises to remember it, right before he attempts to eliminate him. Budo unleashes a hidden electrical assault that sends shockwaves through Tatsumi's Incursio armor. The screams of Tatsumi distract Lub, who fails to notice their contact holding him in place, leaving him vulnerable to Shura's attacks. In a brutal display of power, Shura slits the throat of the woman who had been helping Lub, punishing her for defiance and taunting her family and lineage. Enraged by the senseless violence, Lub activates one of the wires he had strategically placed around the battleground. While Sayura boasts about his abilities, one of Lub's wires slices through Sayura's hand, severing the hand that holds the Shambhala device. Lub quickly seizes the opportunity to grab the device, but in the chaos, he fails to notice the woman he thought was dead stabbing him from behind. The device slips from Lub's grasp and returns to Shura, who activates it once again. This time, he sends Lub to an alternate dimension, believing he has finally secured victory. However, Shura is shocked when Lub manages to draw him into the dimension just before the teleportation circle closes, trapping them both together in a realm where their powers can be unleashed without restraint. With no further obstacles, Lub swiftly stabs Shura in the heart with his wire spear. As Shura gasps in shock, Lub activates the wires embedded in Shura's body, destroying his heart from within. Shura dies instantly, and Lub, having accomplished his goal, is teleported back to the real world. As he falls, his life flashes before his eyes, and he loses his imperial relic, Crosstail. Lub crashes down in front of Tatsumi, who is captured and facing imminent death. The sight of his fallen friend causes Tatsumi to scream out in anguish, his heart breaking at the loss. Back in the capital, Prime Minister Honest receives news of Lub's death. He mourns for less than a minute before returning to his cold, calculating demeanor. He quickly shifts gears, discussing plans to capitalize on this victory. With Tatsumi now in their grasp, Honest devises a plan for a public execution, intending to send a message to the Revolutionary Army to dissuade them from further resistance. Esdeath arrives just in time, pleading with the Prime Minister to allow her to carry out the execution personally. Her desire for a dramatic display of power aligns with Honest's objectives. Soon after, posters announcing Tatsumi's public execution are distributed throughout the capital, spreading fear and uncertainty among the populace. After spotting the wanted posters for Tatsumi's public execution, Mine immediately dons her gear, determined to rescue him from the palace. Akame, however, catches wind of her plan and intervenes, insisting that Mine not risk her life on what she deems a suicide mission. Despite Mine's desperate attempts to justify her actions, Akame stands firm, declaring that she will accompany her. She refuses to let her comrade throw her life away for a boy. Shortly thereafter, Leon arrives, eager to join the mission as well. Najenda soon follows, affirming the importance of rescuing Tatsumi, as he is a vital member of the Night Raid assassin group. The resolve among the group solidifies, and they prepare for the imminent rescue operation. Meanwhile, Esdeath makes her way to Tatsumi's dungeon, intending to persuade him to switch sides and avoid execution. When Tatsumi firmly refuses her offer, Esdeath's frustration boils over, and she slices through the dungeon walls to reach him. She embraces him, pleading for him to stay by her side, promising that he wouldn't even have to betray his allies as long as he is under her protection. Tatsumi, however, pushes her away and vehemently rejects her offer, declaring that he would rather die than align himself with someone who spreads destruction. Sensing his unwavering resolve, Esdeath reluctantly decides to take matters into her own hands and carry out the execution herself. Wave, witnessing Esdeath's emotional turmoil, feels confused about her desire to kill the person she claims to love. Kurome, sitting up in her bed, explains to Wave that sometimes love can lead to a desire for destruction, revealing her own feelings about wanting to kill her sister out of love. Wave remains silent, still struggling to comprehend the complexity of their emotions. Meanwhile, Kuromi notices her hair falling out in small clumps, a grim sign that her time may be running out. In the next scene, Najenda and the girls gather to discuss the security surrounding Tatsumi's execution. She highlights the weak points in the defenses, ensuring that everyone is prepared for the emergency mission. Before concluding the meeting, they take a moment to pay their respects to Lub, honoring his sacrifice before setting out to rescue Tatsumi. The scene shifts to the public execution, where the young and naive emperor stands before a crowd, preparing to address the people. He places Tatsumi in the center of the arena and delivers a foolish speech, claiming that the execution is for the good of the empire. After his self-serving monologue, he retreats to the palace with Prime Minister Honest, leaving the execution in the hands of Esdeath and Budo. As Esdeath descends from the platform to confront Tatsumi, she draws her sword and points it at his neck. Before she can strike, she asks Tatsumi to show her his resolve to live and fight for what he believes is right. Just as she prepares to deliver the fatal blow, Mine fires her pumpkin artillery at the execution spot, creating chaos. The rest of the night raid team arrives in their air manta, led by Najenda. As they swoop in to rescue Tatsumi, Najenda activates the bombs that Lub had planted earlier, commanding the girls to prepare for battle. Budo quickly dons his special armor and retaliates. Leon jumps down to join Mine in the fight against Budo. Akame, meanwhile, stealthily infiltrates the palace. Su and Najenda distract Esdeath. Leone clings to Budo, creating an opening for Mine's artillery. Mine takes aim and fires, but Budo erects a lightning wall, blocking her shot. Leon collapses, paralyzed and unable to assist, leaving Mine vulnerable to Budo's attacks. In a risky maneuver, Mine allows herself to be thrown around by Budo, hoping to increase the power of her pumpkin artillery. Meanwhile, Akame manages to find Tatsumi's sword in the Prime Minister's office, recovering it just in time. Esdeath, reveling in the chaos, encases Su in a massive ball of ice. Najenda activates Su's hidden power, the Magatama manifestation, which amplifies his abilities. With newfound strength, Su breaks free from the ice and launches a counterattack against Esdeath. Esdeath, clearly enjoying the thrill of the battle, engages Su, prolonging the fight and savoring the challenge. The battle between Mine and Budo escalates with each passing second, the tension palpable in the air. Mine takes hit after hit from Budo's relentless attacks, but her determination fuels her resolve. As Budo prepares to end the fight with one final blow, he levitates high into the sky, charging up his hidden power, the solid shooter. In a moment of clarity, Mine points her artillery relic at him, pouring all her emotions into the weapon. She channels her pain, anger, and hope into a devastating attack, unleashing a powerful shot that pierces through the air and strikes Budo directly. The impact is catastrophic, obliterating Budo and his relic in a brilliant explosion of energy, marking Mine's victory in the intense matchup. Exhausted from the battle, Mine falls to the ground, her strength waning. Just as she hits the ground, Akame arrives. Tatsumi rushes towards Mine, catching her in his arms just before she lands. Meanwhile, Najenda assesses the situation and realizes that the mission is complete. She advises her team to withdraw, understanding the need for a strategic retreat in the face of overwhelming odds. However, Esdeath is not ready to let them escape just yet. Utilizing her most powerful technique, she freezes time and space around her, creating an eerie stillness in the chaos of battle. She strides towards Su, stabbing his chest with her sword. Before he can react, Esdeath destroys Susanoo and his core, believing she has eliminated the threat. To her surprise, Esdeath witnesses Su's core beginning to reassemble, an unexpected resurgence. Najenda, despite her own injuries, is channeling her life force into Su, determined to bring him back. She spits out blood but manages to issue commands to Su, urging him to make peace with the Night Raiders and to escape while they still can. Esdeath, realizing the stakes, attempts to stop them, but Su valiantly defends his comrades, blocking her attacks and creating a momentary shield for their escape. As the Night Raiders make their way back to their hideout, Mine, weakened but resolute, asks Tatsumi to put her down near a river. She wishes to have her final moments by the water, a serene place amidst the chaos. Tatsumi, respecting her wishes, gently lays her down, doing everything in his power to keep her alive. In those precious moments, Mine holds Tatsumi close and confesses her love for him. Her voice trembles with emotion as she expresses her wish to have spent more time together, to have lived a happy life with him. But she knows that fate has other plans. For the first time, Mine kisses Tatsumi. As their lips meet, she feels her strength fading, and with a heavy heart, she whispers her final words of love. Seconds later, her body gives out, leaving him shattered and heartbroken. Upon returning to the hideout, take a moment to mourn their fallen comrades. The atmosphere is heavy with grief, particularly for Tatsumi, who feels the weight of losing so many friends in such a short time. But Najenda and the others gently pull him back to focus, reminding him that their next and final mission must proceed smoothly. Regaining his composure, Tatsumi expresses his gratitude to his team for their unwavering support. After their somber meeting, Najenda retreats to her quarters to mourn the loss of her imperial relic, Susanoo, who sacrificed his life to ensure her survival. In a quiet moment of reflection, she honors his memory, acknowledging the bond they shared in their fight against the Empire. Meanwhile, Tatsumi pays his final respects to Mine, his heart heavy with sorrow as he grapples with the loss of someone he cared for deeply. He vows to carry her memory with him as he prepares to face the challenges ahead. As chaos unfolds in the capital, citizens begin to rise against the current leadership, fueled by anger and desperation. In a shocking revelation, Run unveils his true self, expressing his deep-seated hatred for the current administration. He admits that he joined the Jaeger force to infiltrate the Empire's ranks, with the goal of changing the system from within. While he acknowledges that he may have gotten carried away earlier, he insists that his ultimate objective remains unchanged. Kurome arrives during their conversation, and Run inquires about her health. Despite his encouragement to find happiness and freedom, Kurome's demeanor is somber. She confesses that she cannot embrace freedom until she has settled the score with her sister Esdeath, a goal that weighs heavily on her heart. Meanwhile, Esdeath is seen engaging in combat with a group of rebels just outside the capital. With her icy powers, she swiftly brings down their captain, challenging anyone else to face her. One by one, the remaining rebels rush at her, but she dispatches each of them with ruthless efficiency. Back at the palace, the officials are in a state of panic as news spreads that the capital is being surrounded by rebels. The young and naive emperor falls into despair, fearing that his reign will end in chaos. He reassures the emperor not to worry about the pesky rebels, and to trust in the nation's trump card, a veiled reference to the empire's formidable forces. In a different part of the capital, Kurome experiences a painful moment as she spits blood into her hand, a sign of her deteriorating condition. Akame and Tatsumi make their way to the town square, where the public execution of suspected revolutionary spies is set to take place. The atmosphere is tense, filled with the murmurs of the gathered crowd. As they stand among the onlookers, Akame's keen eyes scan the scene. When the bodies of the executed spies are displayed, she notices a message hidden among the remains. Carefully, she retrieves it and deciphers the note, which leads her to an old facility on the outskirts of the capital. Upon returning to the hideout, Akame prepares herself for the confrontation with her sister, Kurome. Tatsumi, concerned for her safety, warns her about the potential dangers, but Akame's resolve is unwavering. She understands the weight of their past and the necessity of facing her sister. Despite Tatsumi's protests, she dons her coat, steeling herself for the journey ahead. As Akame arrives at the dilapidated facility, she calls out to signal her sister's presence. Kurome, sitting quietly within the crumbling walls, responds to her sister's voice. The two meet, and Kurome offers Akame some sweets, a nostalgic gesture that momentarily softens the tension between them. They sit across from one another, and for a brief moment, they reminisce about their childhood and the bond they once shared. Their memories take them back to when they were reunited in that very facility years ago. At that time, they had worked together as sisters in arms, fighting for the Empire. However, the tides turned when Akame made the choice to betray the Empire and join the Night Raiders, the very group they had been conditioned to eliminate. Kurome's expression darkens as she recalls the pain of that betrayal, admitting that her sister's departure left her feeling miserable and alone. As the weight of their shared history hangs in the air, Kurome declares her intent to take Akame's life as restitution for leaving her behind. She vows that she will not go down without a fight, ready to defend her life and her choices. Meanwhile, Wave is consumed with worry for Kurome, his concern palpable as he paces restlessly. Sensing Wave's distress, Run decides to share what he knows, revealing Kurome's likely location at the old facility. Kurome quickly summons Natala and Doya to assist her in the fight against Akame, despite her injury. She meticulously prepares for the battle, determined to succeed. The two sisters clash swords fiercely, engaging in a heated discussion about right and wrong. Unfortunately, their intense confrontation is abruptly interrupted when an experimental humanoid danger beast emerges from the underground lab beneath the facility. The massive creature swiftly takes down Doya and Natala, forcing the sisters to unite against this new threat. Working together, Kurome and Akame coordinate their attacks, ultimately managing to defeat the danger beast. However, once it falls, Kurome resumes her battle with Akame, clashing swords once more. In a desperate move, she summons a few nameless soldiers to aid her, but Akame quickly annihilates the soldiers and prepares to deliver the final blow. Just as she is about to strike, Wave arrives in his grand chariot relic. However, Tatsumi, clad in his Incursio armor, intervenes, stopping Wave from interfering. Grateful for Wave's timely rescue, Kurome expresses her appreciation, but insists that she must settle things with her sister once and for all. Understanding her resolve, Wave steps back, allowing the sisters to confront each other. Both Akame and Kurome charge at one another, but in a heartbreaking turn of events, Akame ends up stabbing her sister. Wave realizes the gravity of the situation, and wishes there was another way to resolve their conflict. Akame gently cradles her sister and places her in Wave's hands. Overwhelmed with emotion, Wave kneels and cries out in despair. After a moment, he gathers Kurome and carries her away. Before leaving, he asks Akame a poignant question. What are they truly fighting for? Akame replies that if he doesn't know that yet, he's not worthy to wield the sword. With his head down, Wave carries Kurome off, leaving Akame to grapple with her pain. The following day, Prime Minister Honest takes the young emperor to the Empire's basement, revealing the Empire's trump card. This hidden weapon serves as the last resort should the situation spiral out of control. After burying Kurome, Wave finds himself questioning his loyalty to the Empire. With most of his colleagues dead, he feels adrift. having lost his life's purpose. Leaving Karome's grave, he carries a heavy heart and more questions than he had when he arrived. Back at the night raid hideout, Leon resumes her playful teasing of Tatsumi, aware that this may be their final mission together. The weight of their situation looms over them, making their banter bittersweet. Najenda interrupts their lighthearted exchange, reminding them that whether they reunite in the future is entirely up to them. With a sense of urgency, everyone readies their weapons for the imminent mission to eradicate the enemies of the Empire. That evening, Najenda and the remaining members of the Night Raid join forces with the other rebels, infiltrating the palace through an underground passageway. On their way, they encounter Run and a few armored guards. Tatsumi pleads with Run to let them through, emphasizing that they are essentially on the same side. However, Run refuses, stating that he wants to change the Empire in his own way. With determination, he activates his Imperial Relic, unleashing powerful attacks with his wings. As he fights, Run shares his tragic backstory with the Raiders, revealing that his village, where he once taught, was annihilated by the very Empire meant to protect it. This betrayal has fueled his grudge against the Empire, and he has been waiting for the opportunity to eradicate its evil from within. Leone, frustrated with Run's inability to see the potential for collaboration, decides to confront him alone, allowing her comrades to pass through. Tatsumi, Akame, and Najenda express their gratitude to her before rushing past Run. Meanwhile, the young emperor is plagued by self-doubt, questioning his judgment as he falls further under the influence of the wicked prime minister. He wonders what he did wrong, completely oblivious to the fact that he has been ruling like a fool for far too long. The prime minister, eager to protect his interests, feeds the emperor's insecurities, assuring him that his reign has been flawless. Before the prime minister can further manipulate the emperor, Tatsumi and Akame burst into the hall. Akame immediately attacks Honest, but he conjures an invisible wall of lightning, blocking her path. He laughs maniacally, condemning the Night Raiders before turning his attention back to the emperor. Tatsumi tries to reason with the young ruler, warning him that his mind is being poisoned by the prime minister's lies. However, the prime minister, fully aware of the emperor's susceptibility, urges him to summon the empire's ultimate weapon, the legendary Imperial relic, Shikutazer. This colossal Megazord relic can unleash devastating laser blasts, capable of obliterating vast areas. Without hesitation, the Emperor activates Shikutazer, unleashing its destructive power and annihilating a portion of his own empire in a fit of rage. Tatsumi watches in horror as the Empire destroys his city with its own hands, feeling the weight of despair settle over him. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister encourages the Emperor to continue his rampage, applauding his destructive capabilities. He reassures the Emperor not to worry about the devastation, claiming that the foolish commoners will handle the repairs once they've dealt with the Night Raiders. The scene is set for an explosive confrontation, with the fate of the Empire hanging in the balance. Tatsumi desperately tries to reason with the Emperor, but the young ruler is too far gone, entrenched in his misguided beliefs. In a moment of clarity, Tatsumi forces the Emperor to confront the devastation he has wrought upon his own empire. As the Emperor witnesses the destruction, he briefly considers changing his mind. However, the Prime Minister, ever manipulative, continues to whisper poison into his ear, urging him to harden his heart and resist any attempts at redemption. Fueled by rage, the Emperor retaliates, slamming Tatsumi to the ground. Just as he prepares to crush him, Wave arrives in the Grand Chariot, swooping in to rescue Tatsumi and carry him to safety. Grateful for the timely intervention, Tatsumi thanks Wave as they land. Wave attempts to speak sense into the Emperor, but the young ruler remains resolute, unwilling to yield to their pleas. Meanwhile, Run and Leon realize they must put aside their differences and unite to protect the citizens of the Empire. As the battle intensifies, Wave and Tatsumi join forces to take down the Shikutazer. In the heat of the fight, Tatsumi recalls one of Susanu's teachings from their time at the waterfall. He identifies the weak point of the legendary relic and delivers a powerful punch, but it proves insufficient to bring it down. The Emperor retaliates, shooting Tatsumi to the ground and urging him to give up. Yet Tatsumi refuses to back down. In a moment of self-discovery, he summons the true power of Incursio. With newfound strength, he charges at the Emperor, his winged armor glowing with energy. He crashes into the weak point of the Shikutazer with all his life force, finally shattering the legendary relic. As the Shikutazer falls, Tatsumi struggles to slow its descent, desperately trying to mitigate the destruction. When the dust settles, a bloodied Tatsumi takes a moment to say his goodbyes to Akame, knowing that his time has come. A true hero is lost that day, leaving a void in the hearts of those who fought alongside him. Tragically, the Emperor remains alive to witness Tatsumi's demise. Just then, Esdeath appears, her expression filled with sorrow as she realizes that the love of her life has just died. Although Esdeath believes Tatsumi died due to his weakness, a flicker of sadness stirs within her heart. Before she can fully process her emotions, a group of rebels rushes to attack her. With ease, Esdeath dispatches them. Akame seizes the moment to challenge her to a final battle between relic wielders. Outside the icy barrier, Najenda urges Akame to finish the job and send Esdeath back to the underworld. Hearing Najenda's command, Akame and Esdeath charge at each other, igniting the climactic battle of the revolution. Esdeath quickly gains the upper hand, using her ice powers to dominate the first half of the fight. Akame, however, remains agile, taking to the air and launching attacks from a distance. After a few moments of combat, Akame pauses to confront Esdeath, condemning her brutal view of life and labeling her a butcher who revels in war and chaos. Rather than being offended, Esdeath urges Akame to channel her rage and prove her words through strength. Esdeath uses her ice powers to lift Akame into the air, preparing to deliver a devastating blow. Akame crashes to the ground but quickly regains her footing, narrowly dodging one of Esdeath's attacks. Despite her efforts, Esdeath continues to overpower her, taunting her for being weak. In a moment of desperation, Akame decides to resort to her last chance. She pushes Esdeath away and slashes her own hand with her sword, Murasame. The cursed poison from the blade envelops her body, nearly killing her. However, Akame's bloodlust and the weight of the lives she has taken in the past allow her to overcome the curse, transforming it into power. For the first time, she unleashes her hidden ability, ready to face her strongest enemy yet. Esdeath welcomes the newly empowered Akame, challenging her to fight fairly. Akame responds by attacking with supersonic speed, overwhelming Esdeath and sending her crashing to the ground. At one point, Akame pins Esdeath down, stabbing her left arm. However, Esdeath retaliates, pushing Akame away and severing her own arm to prevent the curse from spreading. With a smile, she continues to fight with her remaining arm. As the battle rages on, Akame begins to feel the effects of her hidden ability, knowing her time is limited. She attacks Esdeath with everything she has, but Esdeath counters her strikes for several moments before activating her own hidden ability, Mahapadma. This powerful technique allows her to freeze time and space, just as she did during her fight with Susanoo and Najenda during Tatsumi's rescue mission. Esdeath draws her sword, poised to stab Akame. However, she soon realizes that the Akame in front of her is merely an afterimage. As she searches for the real Akame, her ability begins to fade, allowing Akame to slash her from above. As the curse envelops Esdeath, she laughs and praises Akame's strength, inquiring about the source of her newfound power. Akame reveals that it comes from the countless souls she has taken throughout her life. With her last ounce of strength, Esdeath rises to her feet and moves closer to Tatsumi's lifeless body. She embraces him, engulfing both of them in an iceberg before shattering into countless pieces. The finality of their battle echoes throughout the battlefield. Realizing he's lost, Prime Minister Honest attempts to escape justice. However, Leone catches up to him in a corridor, her confidence soaring as she believes she can easily take him down. He unleashes his Imperial Relic, nullifying Leone's own relic. Stripped of her healing abilities, Leone finds herself vulnerable. Without hesitation, Honest pulls out his gun and shoots Leone twice. Despite her injuries, Leone remains on her feet, determined to fight back. She retaliates, delivering a brutal beatdown to the Prime Minister. In a desperate attempt to finish her off, Honest fires all the bullets in his pistol at her. Yet Leone proves to be far stronger than any Imperial relic, ensuring that she destroys Honest's face before tending to her own wounds. Meanwhile, Akame and Leone share emotional goodbyes, parting ways with the hope of never seeing each other again. That night, as a new system begins to take shape in the capital, the citizens celebrate their festival of independence and a fresh start. Leone slips past a pub she used to frequent, making her way into an alleyway to succumb peacefully to her gunshot wounds. With a smile on her face, she dies a hero. The following day, the citizens gather to witness the execution of their foolish emperor. Moments before his execution, the emperor, despite feeling remorse for the sorrow he has caused his people, accepts his fate and allows his head to be severed. Once it's done, the citizens return to the important task of rebuilding their nation. Wave and Run visit Kurome's grave one last time to say their final goodbyes before heading to the capital. Najenda and the members of the New Order generously gift Tatsumi's village with all the riches they can find, honoring the bravery of such a valiant warrior. Tragically, the villagers still believe Tatsumi and his friends are alive, praying silently for their return. As Akame takes one last look at Tatsumi's artifact, Najenda arrives with Lub's glasses, offering her final farewells. Grateful, Akame thanks Najenda for allowing her to join the Night Raiders, expressing that she has had the best time of her life with them. To conclude their final mission, Akame shakes hands with Najenda before setting off into the unknown to find her new path. She journeys through deserts and seas, carrying the memories of her fallen comrades as she continues her adventure alone. This series poignantly illustrates the sacrifices made by veterans to forge a better world for everyone. One can only imagine the countless sacrifices they endured to create the peace we now enjoy.